Mswada huu unaratibu mapendekezo yaliyotangazwa kwenye bajeti ya mwaka 2018 hadi mwaka 2019 kuhusu mfumo wa ulipaji madeni na ule wa ukusanyaji wa ushuru wa aina mbalimbali. Mswada mwingine uliorodheshwa kuchunguzwa na kamati ya bunge lote ni mswada wa mwaka huu kutoka bunge la Senate ambao unahusu marekebisho ya sheria ya ugavi wa mapato kati ya serikali ya taifa na zile za magatuzi. Mswada huu unadhamiria kutengea serikali za magatuzi pesa zaidi kwenye kipindi cha matumizi ya pesa cha mwaka wa 2018 hadi mwaka wa 2019. Vilevile kamati ya bunge lote inatarajiwa kuchunguza mswada wa kurekebisha vifungu mbalimbali vya sheria 60. Pia kuna mswada nambari 14 wa mwaka huu wa kurekebisha vifungu 10 vya sheria ya sekta ya afya. Baadhi ya vifungu hivyo ni pamoja na sheria kuhusu matibabu ya kutumia miale na sheria kuhusu wahudumu wa afya na wataalamu wa meno. Sheria nyingine ni kuhusu wauguzi, chuo cha kutoa mafunzo ya utabibu hapa nchini, sheria kuhusu wataalamu wa lishe, sheria ya shirika la kitaifa la usambazaji dawa na sheria kuhusu wataalamu wa utoaji ushauri nasaha. Vilevile kuna sheria kuhusu wataalamu wa tiba ya maungo na usimamizi wa habari na kumbukumbu za sekta ya afya, na hatimaye sheria kuhusu mafunzo, usajili na utoaji leseni kwa maafisa wa kliniki. Na mswada wa kurekebisha sheria kuhusu mfumo na kanuni za kuorodhesha miji na majiji pia unatarajiwa kusomwa kwa mara ya pili. Mswada huo unaratibu kwamba jiji linafaa kuwa na idadi ya watu isiyopungua 250,000 na mipango kama vile mpango wa ustawi wa kiuchumi, muundo msingi wa maji na mitaro ya kupitisha maji taka, taa za barabarani, maeneo ya makaburi, uchukuzi wa umma miongoni mwa masharti mengine. Nayo manispaa inahitajika kuwa na watu wasiopungua 50,000 na miji inahitaji kuwa na idadi ya watu isiyopungua 10,000. Hatimaye bunge linatarajiwa kujadili mswada kuhusu mfumo wa kutoa stakabadhi katika mabohari ya kuhifadhi nafaka hapa nchini ambao unatarajiwa kusoma kwa mara ya kwanza. Hadi kufikia sasa kuna shughuli inayoendelea ukumbini. Kumbuka kwamba hiki ni kikao ambacho kimeandaliwa leo Alhamisi mahususi kujadili masuala kadha wa kadha. Ilivyo desturi ni kwamba siku ya Alhamisi huwa na vikao saa 8, lakini leo kuna hiki kikao ambacho kimeandaliwa mahususi kwa shughuli mwafaka za wabunge katika kuhakikisha uwakilishi na utungaji sheria na majukumu mengine. Wakati wa kikao cha jana, Wakenya walipata afueni kwa muda baada ya wabunge kuazimia kuahirisha kwa muda wa miaka miwili utekelezaji wa nyongeza ya 16% ya ushuru ziada wa thamani, yani VAT, kwa bidhaa za petroli. Akiwasilisha marekebisho hayo, mbunge wa Suna Mashariki Junet Mohamed alisema hatua hiyo inanuiwa kuwakinga Wakenya dhidi ya ongezeko la gharama ya maisha, huku akisema sheria hiyo inaweza kutekelezwa kwa awamu kwa mashauriano na Wizara ya Fedha. Naye mbunge wa Suba Kusini John Badi akiunga mkono kuahirishwa kwa utekelezaji wa ushuru huo VAT, alisema hatua itasababisha nyongeza ya bei za bidhaa kwa 10%, uchukuzi kwa 20% na pia kuathiri sekta ya ajira. Kikao cha leo, mtazamaji, kitasimamiwa na naibu spika wa bunge la taifa Mheshimiwa Moses Cheboi, na ni wakati wa kupata maombi. Hii ni KBC Channel 1.
Almighty God, whom your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders, and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. We beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, other members, we don't have the required numbers, and I therefore order that the bell be rung for 10 minutes.
Nama mtazamaji, kwa kutokana na ukosefu wa akidi, yani quorum, ni wakati sasa wa kuendelea kukufahamisha yaliyojiri hapo jana, ambapo nimekufahamisha mtazamaji kunradhi kwamba Wakenya walipata afueni kwa muda baada ya wabunge kuazimia kuahirisha kwa muda wa miaka miwili utekelezaji wa nyongeza ya 16% ya ushuru ziada wa thamani yani VAT kwa bidhaa za petroli. Akiwasilisha marekebisho hayo, mbunge wa Suna Mashariki Junet Mohamed alisema hatua hiyo inanuia kuwakinga Wakenya dhidi ya ongezeko la gharama ya maisha, huku akisema sheria hiyo inaweza kutekelezwa kwa awamu kwa mashauriano na Wizara ya Fedha. Naye mbunge wa Suba Kusini Mheshimiwa John Badi akiunga mkono kuahirishwa kwa utekelezaji wa ushuru huo wa VAT, alisema hatua hiyo itasababisha nyongeza ya bei za bidhaa kwa 10%, uchukuzi kwa 20% na pia kuathiri sekta ya ajira. Wakati huo wabunge wanawake jana walitoa wito wa kuharakishwa kwa mchakato wa kupitisha mswada utakaohakikisha usawa wa kijinsia jinsi ilivyoratibishwa kwenye katiba. Wabunge hao walikatiza shughuli za bunge kwa muda mfupi walipoingia ukumbini wakiwa wamevalia vitambaa vyeupe vichwani na kuwashangaza wenzao wa kiume. Wabunge wakiongozwa na kiongozi wa wengi Aden Duale walimtaka spika kuamua iwapo wabunge wanawake walikuwa wamevalia ipasavyo kulingana na kanuni za bunge. Kwa upande wake, mbunge wa Kitutu Chache Kaskazini Jimmy Angwenyi akisimama kwa hoja ya nidhamu alidumisha kicheko ukumbini alipomtaka spika kuwaruhusu wabunge wanaume pia kuingia ukumbini wakiwa wamevalia kofia. Muda mfupi baadaye, mbunge wa Kikuyu Kimani Ichung'wah alishangiliwa na wabunge wanawake alipoingia ukumbini akiwa amevalia kitambaa cheupe kuunga mkono mswada kuhusu usawa wa kijinsia. Naye mbunge maalum Cecil Mbarire, Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege wa Murang'a na Janet Ongera wa Kisii walisema wanatetea kwa amani kupitishwa kwa mswada wa usawa wa kijinsia ambao umesubiri kupitishwa kwa muda wa miaka 8. Hata hivyo, Spika Justin Turi alisema wanawake wa bunge walikuwa wakivutia mno wakiwa wamevalia hivyo. Hayo ni miongoni mwa yale ambayo yalikuwa yakijadiliwa jana katika kikao cha alasiri. Hadi kufikia sasa hivi, mtazamaji, hakuna shughuli yoyote inaendelea kutokana na ukosefu wa idadi ya kutosha ya wabunge, yani akidi, na hivyo Naibu Spika wa Bunge la Taifa Mheshimiwa Moses Cheboi ameamrisha kengele ikirizwe kwa muda ili kuwapa nafasi wabunge zaidi kuingia ukumbini, huko viranja wa pande zote mbili za bunge wakifanya kila juhudi kuhakikisha kwamba idadi hiyo inatimizwa. Kumbuka, haya ni matangazo ya moja kwa moja kutoka Bunge la Taifa kupitia KBC Channel 1, matangazo pia ambayo yanakujia sambamba kwenye KBC Radio Taifa. Bunge linatarajiwa kujadili hoja ya ripoti ya kamati ya utekelezaji wa maazimio ya bunge kuhusu kubatilishwa kwa kanuni za agizo la ada zinazotozwa abiria wanaosafiri kwa ndege. Wakati huo kamati ya bunge lote inatarajiwa kuchunguza miswada mitatu. Kamati ya bunge lote inatarajiwa kurejelea kudurusu ule mswada wa sekta ya fedha. Mswada huu unaratibu mapendekezo yaliyotangazwa kwenye bajeti ya mwaka 2018 hadi mwaka 2019 kuhusu mfumo wa ulipaji madeni na pia ule wa ukusanyaji wa ushuru wa aina mbalimbali. Mswada mwingine ambao umeorodheshwa, na kuna ishara kwamba huenda idadi hiyo ya wabunge wanaohitajika inakaribia kutimizwa.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
On this particular order, we have Honorable Dan Mwashako, member for Wundanyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to present a petition, reclassification of Taita Taveta County as a marginalized area to benefit from the Equalization Fund. I, the undersigned, on behalf of the residents of Taita Taveta County, draw the attention of the House to the following. That Article 204, 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the Constitution establishes the Equalization Fund, which provides that 0.5% of all the revenue collected of the national government each year, calculated on the basis of the most recent audited accounts, to provide for services that include water, roads, health, electricity to the marginalized areas. That in its second marginalizing policy, the Commission of Revenue Allocation has dropped roads as one of the key indicators of measuring access to Equalization Fund by counties, a decision which is likely to impact negatively on those beneficiary counties, such as County of Taita Taveta, whose inclusion as a beneficiary was arrived due to undeveloped road network, among other factors. That the net effect of dropping an undeveloped road network as an indicator for accessing Equalization Fund will lead to degazettement of beneficiary counties such as Taita Taveta, despite the area having poor and no road network for economic prosperity, and it's also contravention of Article 2042. That CRA claims that 78% of households in Kishushe sublocation in Wundanyi constituency, which has been rated the highest in terms of access to safe drinking water, is untrue, as the said area has the worst access to safe drinking water in the county, hence casting doubt on the authenticity of data and parameters used to determine marginalized areas in the second CRA policy. That public participation done by the Commission on Revenue Allocation, Mr. Speaker, in coming up with the second organization fund policy was inadequate, as the key stakeholders in the counties of Taita Taveta and other counties in the first policy were never involved in its formulation. That Taita Taveta County has had numerous unresolved land issues since 62% of the land is under wildlife, leaving very little for doing viable economic activities by residents, compounded by the lack of title ownership. The county still registers the lowest electricity connectivity, with only 10% of homes connected to power, as opposed to CRA claims that the area is adequately connected with electricity. The idea to spread equalization fund thinly to 34 counties, Mr. Speaker, up from 14 counties is ill-advised, as counties enjoy the equitable share of revenue that counties that are not, sorry, Mr. Speaker, the idea is to spread equalization fund thinly to 34 counties, up from 14 counties is ill-advised, as counties enjoy the equitable share of revenue that are not marginalized are able to sort out challenges in their sublocations or small areas with the resources allocated to them through the equitable share. Commission of Revenue Allocation did not establish the level of impact achieved by the first marginalization fund policy, neither did it submit a report of actual findings to the National Assembly for deliberation before attempting to review and implement a new policy. That the second marginalization policy adopted by CRA has not been approved by Parliament prior to its implementation as provided in Article 2165 of the Constitution. Efforts to have the matter resolved amicably and render permanent solution through the concerned government departments has been unsuccessful. That the matters in respect of which this petition is raised are not pending before any court of law, constitutionally, or any legal body. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee of Finance and Planning and National Planning, recommend that CRA includes sub-counties and all areas of Taita Taveta County among the benefiting areas in the second marginalization policy. 2, cause CRA to conduct public participation in the initial 14 counties before attempting to review the first policy, including carrying out the level of impact achieved by the first policy, and submit a report of actual findings to the National Assembly before attempting to review and implement the new policy. 4, I recommend that CRA reintroduces roads as an indicator of marginalization, as stipulated in the Constitution, Article 204. 5, recommends that CRA conducts actual visits of marginalized areas and build on the first-hand findings on the first policy instead of relying on outdated and erroneous data as parameters to measure marginalization. And the petitioners will ever pray, presented by myself, Danson Mwashako, MP Undani. Thank you.
Very well. Therefore, I'll give a few members to put their thought on this before I recommend it to the relevant committee. We'll start with the Honorable Sheikh Abdallah Sheikh, Member Mandera North. Either your microphone is not working or your voice is completely...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to support the petition on the issue of equalization fund. Initially, it comprised of 14 counties. CRA, without proper consultation of the initial 14 counties, expanded to 21 counties. What is glaring is that, 34 counties, what is glaring is that Taita Taveta was among the initial 14 counties. Now, if you are expanding, how do you exclude those who were there before and bring new players? The initial 14 counties have not even yet benefited from the first equalization phase. Equalization fund projected accumulatively is around 21 billion. Even 2 billion has not yet been exhausted. Now we are having issues of saying we expand the equalization to more than 21 counties. How fair is CRA? Have we conducted assessments on what has so far been done on the first tranche of equalization? I am aware, because I come from one of the counties that was a beneficiary of equalization fund. Nothing tangible has so far been done in those counties.
But you see, Honorable Sheikh, you are now giving all the contributions that you could even have saved some for the whatever the committee will be doing. So, I mean, you just make a brief one so that I can give more members. I know, of course, you are the vice chair of the entire pastoralist group where this marginalization fund resides mostly. just make your brief comments, and then the rest you'll actually go to the committee when it will be transacting this matter.
Much obliged. Thank you, Chairman. You know, these days, so many counties want to share marginalization, and I'm very happy that as Vice Chair, we'll have more members. So they can welcome, but the resources are too meager. And I think on this aspect, going forward, we need to have the equalization fund board as suggested by some members. So I support the petition, and we want Taita Taveta to be included and to retain the same position as before. Thank you.
Okay. On this other side, let me see Honorable Mwadime, member for Mwatate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. On the onset, I'm supporting the petition. Mr. Speaker, corruption is not only embezzlement of funds, but also denying some regions what is due to them is also corruption. Removing Taita Taveta is like embezzling funds for roads, healthy, electricity, and water to them. Mr. Speaker, right now, in Taita Taveta, even having those boreholes, that area is covered by minerals. And some of those minerals are actually poisonous. Even at the moment as we talk, there are some areas where people, they walk almost 20 kilometers to go fetch water. Roads, the area is very hilly. At the same time, on health, it is pathetic. And we were shocked that amongst the 14 areas which were actually pointed out to be equalization, Taita Taveta is the only county which was removed. Mr. Speaker, let the people who hold the offices should not use the offices to deny others. And the petition, as Honorable Mashako has put it, it is very clear that it is unconstitutional to what the office holders are doing. In Mwatate constituency right now, we have problems of wildlife conflict, where the problem is not yet finalized. We have problems of roads. We have the entire region was not electrified. Water is a big problem, and we are wondering what's not happening. The same area in Mwatate, we don't have any industry which can employ our youth. They have to go either to Nairobi or Mombasa. And we are shocked by the CRA removing Taita Taveta in the list of beneficiaries of Equalization Fund. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the Equalization Fund, which was distributed 2013-2017, it is not yet been implemented. There are some projects which have not yet been done. And before they are finished, the CRA has already removed Taita Taveta, which implies that these projects are going to be white elephant projects. Therefore, I am supporting this petition, and okay, I'm requesting the committee concerned to be faster and...
That's fine. Now let's go to the next one, Honorable Dr. Pukose.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the onset, I want to support the honorable member for Taita Taveta that Taita Taveta should be reinstated back on the Equalization Fund. Mr. Speaker, I think it's very unfair for the CRA to be able to remove a constituency that was initially slated to benefit from the Equalization Fund, even before they are able to realize the benefits of the Equalization Fund. I think, and Mr. Speaker, I think one of the key issues for the CRA that the costing of the functions, especially some of these, like you're talking of Equalization Fund benefiting electricity, in the energy sector, immunization, and issues to do with the water supply. And yet, once you've done that costing, you know that it's going to require this much, And before you are able to put enough funds, you remove that institution. Mr. Speaker, also you have other areas. We were told that last time we were here, we were being told that wards, we have new wards which have been put. We would want that list to be publicized so that we know who are the beneficiaries, or the new beneficiaries of the Equalization Fund. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to support the petition by the Honorable Member. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Manzo Kitonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to support the Honorable Mwashako. Mr. Speaker, Taita Taveta County borders Makueni County, and although Makueni was not factored in this, the case made by Taita Taveta, Mr. Speaker, is a case of equity. Everyone knows there's an area which is semi-arid, and that it is almost equivalent to the other semi-arid areas which are already benefiting. So it is only fair that it be included in the Equalization Fund so that the people there who have suffered for many years can also be equalized. Furthermore, as it has been said, this fund has not yet been implemented. So there's nothing wrong with looking at it again to make sure not only Taita Taveta County, but any other county which has similar situations is not left out, and Kenyans from those areas could benefit from Equalization Fund. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Lastly, on this one, Honorable Lemein.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the petition by my very good friend, Dan Mwashako. Mr. Speaker, Narok County is a beneficiary of the Equalization Fund. However, Mr. Speaker, even the last allocation that was provided, up to date, Mr. Speaker, we are not even seeing the benefit of the same, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I had the benefit of visiting Taita Taveta County 3 weeks ago. We went to 4 constituency. And Mr. Speaker, it beats logic when you hear that CRA actually have kind of given the Taita Taveta a raw deal on matters Equalization Fund. Mr. Speaker, I think the petition by Dan is well placed, and I think the relevant authorities should look into it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Next order. Yes, what is your point of order, Leader of Majority Party?
Mr. Speaker, you have seen the Chair of Legal Affairs is sitting with me and consulting.
Just a minute, Leader. Maybe we need more. Just a minute. Leader, I'll give you an opportunity shortly. Let's allow us to dispense of some 2 things. Proceed.
Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Yes, now, Honorable Leader, we can hear you now.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I said I was consulting with the Chair of Legal Affairs on the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill number 12 of 2018. And from what he's telling me, and I've seen a number of amendments on this bill, Speaker, I need to have further consultation with a number of committee chairs. The Committee on Labor, Committee on Legal itself, so that we step down this bill at the Committee of the House this morning.
Okay, since you have given sufficient time, but this has been in the order paper for a long time.
Yes.
I hope when you now seek this particular adjournment, you will have an opportunity to resume quickly when we find the next opportune time.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have been doing this where
yes.
we consult with the chairs and the members and reduce on the amendments, yes.
Of course, Leader.
And because the House is to make laws, and good laws for the country.
Agreed. This is your bill, so it is so ruled. So it will be stepped down. It will not be. What is it, Honorable Junet?
Mr. Speaker, as much as the bill belongs to the majority leader and is in order to withdraw it any time, Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that is of immense interest to the members, and members really prepared for it and came this morning for the sole purpose of participating in the committee of the whole House. But the majority leader did not give a definite time when he intends to bring back the bill so that members can know can plan when to prepare for it.
You see, let's hear Honorable Omboko Milemba. Then I will actually make a substantive ruling on it.
Chair, Honorable Speaker, thank you. It's in the same spirit already mentioned by Honorable Junet that we would really want to know at what time then is the bill coming, because it has been on the order paper for the last about 2 weeks continuously. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay. Honorable Akoth. Oh, is that you, Honorable Millie? Okay, proceed. You have too many names. I think you should, you are Honorable Akoth, Honorable Odhiambo, Honorable Gesa, and there is even another one which I don't want to mention now. But what is it? There is also... I am not so sure whether the members are saying you are Mabona or...
And Honorable Mwadime is also saying I'm the ranking member.
You don't have a mic, just, yes.
Thank you. Honorable Mwadime is also saying and Honorable ranking member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you see, I came in very early with my computer looking at the several pieces of legislation in relation to this miscellaneous amendment bill. But nonetheless, I think the request by the majority leader is in order. And I would want to say it's in order because it would then enable us. I was actually going to request that we set up a harmonization committee. That if we can go beyond that and set up an harmonization committee, it will enable us at the committee of the whole House to prosecute the bill much better, much tidier, and much neater. Because there are some amendments that we might only be agreed, then we drop. So where we have similarity of amendments, like Anomi and Honorable Nyikal, and I think there was about 3 other members who have similar amendments to mine. So when we synchronize, Mr. Speaker, then we don't need to spend so much time on it. Okay. So I would want to encourage that we go that direction, but that you direct that it is not just him consulting the committees, but you have a harmonization committee.
You know, it is very surprising many times, Honorable Mabona, Millie Odhiambo. In the mornings, you are very reasonable sometimes. Let's proceed. Let's hear from the Chair Legal Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with the majority leader. Mr. Speaker, there are over 69 proposed amendments to the bill, touching on various statutes, Mr. Speaker. And indeed, you find a situation where 2-3 members proposes amendments on the same sections of those statutes and so on. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think as a House, it is important for us to harmonize all this so that, Mr. Speaker, we spend the time of the House in a manner that's going to be very, very, very useful, Mr. Speaker. And so I support the proposal that, Mr. Speaker, we adjourn this, and when we come back, the majority leader, Mr. Speaker, who is also busy, Mr. Speaker, I'm supporting the majority leader in this, and he's busy.
Yes, actually you are supporting him on record, so don't have to worry about him having to hear it.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, so Mr. Speaker, I just want to agree. And Mr. Speaker, the essence of this statute law miscellaneous amendment is to realign the law to the areas where we feel the law is not properly realigned, Mr. Speaker, is to do so. So it is very important that we take time and be able to really move together as a House. Okay. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to really agree with the majority leader.
What is it, Honorable Mutavi? Member for Yatta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of, on the same issue of harmonization, which I do agree, but Mr. Speaker, I want to bring to your attention that I've noticed a trend where amendments are brought to the floor of the House, and they are already contradicting existing laws. So I was just wondering, is there no procedure where an amendment, before it is brought to the House, since we have a legal department in Parliament, they confirm that there is no existing law and that that amendment does not contradict existing laws? I saw that happen yesterday.
Okay. Now, Honorable Leader of Majority, before I make the final ruling, Honorable Leader of Majority Party, is important that you get to hear this. Number one, there are two issues which have been raised here. The first one is the timelines, like what is the approximate time that you think you'd want to bring this matter to the House, because already the members have seen it and it has elicited a lot of interest. And secondly, what Honorable Millie Odhiambo asked, which to me looks very reasonable, that you probably need to do some harmonization so that it becomes easier when it comes to the House and we will not have to spend too much time transacting it. So what is it that you have to say? Of course, it's obvious that I'm going to allow the Leader of Majority, that is for sure. In fact, I am actually ruling it already, that we have accepted your request, but we want to hear from you what you intend to do to make it easier for the members to transact this. You see the interest they have.
Speaker, every bill or motion is of interest to the members and to the country. So there's no one bill or one motion that is superior to the other. And what Honorable Millie, and please sorry for coming too early. You know, I pray at 5:30, so I'm forced to wake up. Maybe you wake up at 10. But we will deal with this matter when we come back. And as you said, we have done this even in the 11th Parliament. Honorable Wamalwa is aware. We will sit with members who their amendments are similar to agree on one. We will sit with the committee chairs so that we will only come with amendments that we feel must be subjected to the floor of the House. But what Honorable Charles Kilonzo raised, Mr. Speaker, is very true. Yesterday, we were legislating for something which was found in the Unclaimed Financial Assets Act. So I think the legal department, as we draft amendments, must look at. We don't want to legislate and, duplicate and or contradict. So the legal affairs chair and the other lawyers in town through the legal department, and we have the best legal department in the National Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Once we come back the first week of October, if the House agrees with me this afternoon, we will deal with that matter.
So it is ruled. The rest, we leave it to the Majority Leader to coordinate and make sure that this thing is transacted. Of course, this has more interest and is actually a miscellaneous amendment like no other brought to the House before. For those members who have been in this House, this is a different one. It's a bit too heavy. So let's proceed. Let's proceed. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report on the Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Apportionment Order 2018.
Okay, that is Chairperson, Delegated Legislation Committee. I am sure you are ready.
Yes.
Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House adopts the report of the Committee of Delegated Legislation laid on the table of this House on Thursday, 23rd August 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of the Statutory Instruments Act, Section 15(1), and Standing Order Number 2010-4B, annuls in its entirety the Air Passenger Service Charge Act Apportionment Order 2018, Legal Notice Number 143 of 2018. Honorable Speaker, as we all know, the Committee on Delegated Legislation is established pursuant to the National Assembly Standing Orders 2010-4B, and has the power to scrutinize and certify that all regulations submitted to the National Assembly are in compliance with the Constitution and all other acts of Parliament. Honorable Speaker,
which one is which act are we annulling in entirety?
We are annulling the regulations,
Yes.
which are referred to in this case as order, that were published in legal notice number 143 of 2018.
Because in the order paper, it talks about the Air Passenger Service
Yes,
Charge Act.
it is under the main statute is the Air Passenger Service Charge Act. You're correct.
Actually, Honorable Shole, all I wanted you to do is to, on record,
Yes,
bring this so that we are very sure that that's the one we are dealing with. That is, you skipped that bit.
yes.
Yes.
I can repeat it, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, yes.
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay. So, Honorable Speaker, I will repeat that for the Hansard record. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation laid on the table of this House on Thursday, 23rd August 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of the Statutory Instruments Act.
There must be something with what you are referring to, because you still skip, unless I'm not clear myself. Kindly repeat it again, because what I just want to capture, or what I want the answer to capture, is the Air Passenger Service Charge Act. Just check it. Maybe there is, if you can go with the order paper, it would be much easier.
I will. Yes, I will.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That the Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on the Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Apportionment Order 2018, laid on the table of this House on Thursday, August 23rd, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 15(1) of the Statutory Instruments Act and Standing Order 210(4)B, and announce in its entirety the said regulation.
That is now, okay.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, the Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Cap 475, Kenya, specifically Section 3.3, provides that all proceeds of the charge imposed under this section shall be apportioned between the Kenya Airports Authority and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority.
What is your point of order, Honorable
In
Diambo?
such manner.
Just a minute, let's see what is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I'm sorry for interrupting my sister, Honorable Gladys. And Mr. Speaker, as Honorable Gladys was really espousing very good points, Honorable Shakil Shabir walked in with something which I'm not too sure is parliamentary. I know that the women yesterday were donning white scarves in support of 2/3, Mr. Speaker. I don't know whether his is part of another agenda, maybe an anti-corruption crusade, given that is, or because it looks more like a blanket, Mr. Speaker. If you can give the House direction whether what he's wearing is really parliamentary.
Actually, it is said that he actually brought it from Mauritius. This is exactly where you... But I see you are complaining about that gadget that is not working well where you are sitting. And if you remind yourself, that is the particular seat which you know what you did in the last parliament, in that particular seat. So you might actually be responsible for that gadget not working. But Honorable Shabir, surely this is not a religious attire. It obviously is not a religious attire. And really, unless that's not religious at all. No, it is not religious at all, and let's hear what you have to say, because...
Yes. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is an Islamic hat. It's worn by Muslims all over the world, and it's an Islamic formal hat. The hat that the majority, his honorable majority leader wears is also an Islamic Swahili hat. This is an Islamic hat that is used most of the Muslim countries where are very, very cold. It is Russia, Tajikistan,
I am not convinced, Honorable Shabir. But let me hear, Honorable maybe I will ask Honorable Junet, is this an Islamic hat? And then, of course, I will ask the member for Wajir, is this an Islamic hat? Because I am convinced it is not. But
Mr.
Is it an Islamic hat?
No, Mr. Speaker. The last time in the world somebody was seen dressed like this, Mr. Speaker, was during Mobutu Sese Seko. Mr. Speaker, that's the last time somebody Mr. Speaker, that's the last time somebody was seen dressed in this manner. But Mr. Speaker, the Islamic hat that he's talking about is the one that is put on by Honorable Duale and others. But Mr. Speaker, this one of Mr. Honorable Shakil, Mr. Speaker, is becoming another Mobutu in our country.
Now, let's hear from you, Honorable Member. Which one is this? Yeah? That's Kolosh, of course, Honorable Kolosh. Yes, let's hear. Is it an Islamic hat?
Speaker. You see, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Junet has never worn even the one Duale wears. This is a Swahili, Islamic dress, but a Swahili. This one is worn at the cold areas. If you go to even the US and Russia, where Afghanistan, where it's very cold, this is the Islamic hat that is used. So I don't know whether the weather is...
Okay, Holosh. So the question which I should be asking is how cold is it this morning that that Honorable Shakil decided to wear this? Because you see, we cannot, we of course will recognize religious hats. But you know, when you tell us this is worn in Russia, I know the kinds of people who wear it in Russia, and they are not Muslims. So, you see, if he was fighting the cold, I think there is a better way to do it. I'm not convinced. But what is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think that it must appreciated that the Islamic Empire actually extended from Damascus right up to Spain and North Africa. And this area covered several different cultures. So you will find that in Morocco they wear the fez, which has nothing to do with the cold, but it's a red hat with a little tassel on it. And what Honorable Shakir is wearing is indeed another variant or style of an Islamic hat, not necessarily because of cold, but it is indeed an Islamic hat. There are different variations in different countries in the Islamic world.
Well, yours is probably, you are picking it out of history. I would rather people who practice it, because of course you are not a Muslim yourself. So let me give the member for Wajir, before I come to the leader of majority now, to make, you know, we really, it should not take us a long time, but really, no. we cannot have people coming in here with caps. Because there were threats yesterday that male members would come here with hats. And I do not know whether Honorable Shabir decides to do that today. Do you think it is Honorable Member Wajir South?
Look, I think, first of all, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hon Millicent Odhiambo has pointed to Honorable Shakir, but I can assure you that that hat has come from Mauritius, where she's witnessed the buying of that cap, because I was there when that was being bought. But anyway, let me put it this way. That is an Islamic hat, Mr. Speaker. It is an Islamic hat, and actually there is the kofia, there is the jilbiya, there are so many types of kofias in the Islamic. And as much as Honorable Juneta said, the last time we have seen that kind of kofia was when Mobutu Sese Seko was wearing. Well, that was the African fashion of it, where there was the leopard kind of it. But let me put it this way. There is the Persian hat. There is the Persian Islamic hat. That comes originally from the Persian part of it, and that is an Islamic hat. And by the way, to give much more benefit to Honorable Shakir, that has got more temperament position on it, and I am quite sure that that is an Islamic hat, and it is used in the Islamic ceremony.
This is very serious, so I really have to be very clear. Before I even give to the leader of majority, that is the lady member for Tana River. Yes, let me hear, and then lastly the leader, because this is very serious. I really would not want anybody to... Yes, proceed and...
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I want to concur with my colleagues. The Muslim kofias are in several designs, and the hats. So even that one is a Muslim hat in a different design. There is even one that covers just like a space here. Back at the coast, we call it Kitoria.
Yes, now,
and it's also a Muslim
now
hat.
just to ask you a question,
yes.
Honorable Member, you said that one in coast is called what?
There's a Kitoria, the one that covers here.
That is okay. Then what is the name of this one?
Okay, I don't know the name. They call it in, you know, maybe it's a Kitoria in a different design. But I don't know the Moroccan name.
No.
That one is the coast name for Kitoria.
No, leader of majority, you will have the final one on this. And
No, Kitoria. Mr. Speaker, first I want to confirm that all the hats that people wear are either communal or cultural. There is no specific hat that you can say is Islamic. Number two, the hat Honorable Shakil is wearing is based on his ancestral descent. It's a Pakistani hat. And if you read the history of Pakistan, the independence of Pakistan, Bhutto is synonymous with that kind of hat. The current prime ministers and leadership don't wear, but it's a traditional Pakistani hat. And Mr. Speaker, if you have to allow a hat, you must allow a hat that is synonymous with the Kenyan culture. We cannot import Pakistan to our chamber. That one, we cannot allow. Because, Mr. Speaker, the route we are taking, yesterday we had the people, members who are wearing white scarf.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow, Bobby Wine's group, they wear the red. You will find Bobby Wine supporters wearing their red scarf here. Because Honorable Bobby Owino and the Honorable nominated Koech, I think, Gideon Keter, I saw them wearing that. So, Mr. Speaker, let us maintain.
Okay,
okay, but that is a Pakistani thing, and we don't want, and I want you to throw him out of the chamber.
Okay, Honorable Kingola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to remind this House, Honorable Shakil used to be a former mayor of Kisumu City. I want to confirm that all mayors, including me from Mavoko, and I'm sure even Honorable Unet, used to wear the same cap. Mr. Speaker, this kofia used to be a sign of power and authority. So I am sure Honorable Shakil this morning must have reminded himself the days and times he used to be a mayor, Mr. Speaker. So I think he's rightfully wearing it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Honorable members, this is I really gave a lot of time to that, and we've really taken unnecessary time on this particular one, which is supposed to be a small issue, because Honorable Shabir said it is a religious hat. And I'm tempted to, I think it is not. It's probably a cultural attire. Yes, if it is a cultural attire, as I think, then he should have actually put the entire cultural dress to go with it. So you have actually mixed what we have in the standing orders with what is probably your cultural hat. I will not throw you out, but I will ask and request you to remove it. And then we proceed. Yes. No. Honorable Shabir is a very respectable member of this House, so I will not throw him out at all. He has done what is correct, and we will proceed. So, Honorable Sholei, proceed. Of course, I understand Honorable Shabir has issues with his hair, so it becomes a bit cold. No. I will ignore Honorable Shabir. I will ignore him. No, but Honorable Shabir. Honorable Shabir, you know it is unnecessary. It is unnecessary to create unnecessary excitement and waste the time of the House. That is equally not, I am not so sure I see it clearly, but it's also not an Islamic cap. Is that an Islamic one? Yes, if it is the same, let's proceed. Let's proceed. Let's proceed, honorable members. Let's proceed. Let's proceed. Proceed, Honorable. Let's leave it. Let's put it to the rest. Honorable 001. What is it, Honorable Sanko? And that should be the last.
Honorable Speaker, you know he may be having so many of them, so you are closing him out. Let him remove this one so that we can see the next one, and the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one. Because this guy seems to be having so many. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
If I am assuming that that's an Islamic cap. Yes, and so we'll proceed. We'll proceed. That is Islamic, so let's proceed. Let's proceed, please. And we will now dispense this matter very quickly because we have taken almost 20 minutes of the very valuable time of this House discussing dressing.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will continue from where I was, and I was just laying the foundation for the reasons for annulment. And Honorable Speaker, I stated that the Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Cap 475, Section 3.3, provides that all proceeds of the charge imposed under the section shall be apportioned between the Kenya Airports Authority and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority in such manner as the Cabinet Secretary may, in a notice of the Kenya Gazette, specify. In exercise of these powers, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury published these regulations, the Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Apportionment Order 2018 on the 29th of June via legal notice number 143 of 2018. Following this publication, the order was tabled before this House as required by law on the 4th of July 2018. Honorable Speaker, this particular order or regulation seeks to introduce the Tourism Promotion Fund as an additional beneficiary of the Air Passenger Service Charge collected under the Air Passenger Service Charge Act. Section 3.1 also provides that the proposed fund receives 20% of the resources collected under this Act. Honorable Speaker, the effect of these regulations is to introduce a third beneficiary. But this is where the committee had a problem with. The fact is that the law is very clear. It only identifies two beneficiaries, the Kenya Airports Authority and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. Therefore, introducing a third beneficiary is in contravention of the parent statute. Honorable Speaker, we did this, the Statutory Instruments Act, Section 16, allows the Committee on Delegated Legislation to consult with the regulation-making authority, in this case, the National Treasury. In fact, the Act says that the committee shall confirm with the regulation-making authority for which the statutory instrument has been brought or made under. And this happened between 17th and 19th of August 2018. And the delegation from the National Treasury was led by the Chief Administrative Secretary, Honorable Nelson Gai Chuhi. Once this was brought before the committee then, in its considerations, made the following recommendations. One, as I already said, the order is inconsistent with the parent act. The creation of a third beneficiary is not envisaged or provided for by the Air Passenger Service Act at all. And therefore, it not only contravenes the parent statute, but it also contravenes the Statutory Instruments Act, which says, Section 24.2, which says that a statutory instrument shall not be inconsistent with the provisions of the enabling legislation or any act of parliament. And the statutory instrument shall be void to the extent of the inconsistency. For that reason, these regulations are inconsistent and therefore void. In fact, if we had allowed these regulations or approved them, it would have been tantamount to amending an act of parliament through a regulation, which is contrary to the law. Secondly, the second reason for annulment is that an order or a regulation cannot apply retrospectively. Honorable Speaker, the Finance Bill 2018 under Clause 56 contains a proposed amendment to the Air Passenger Service Charge Act to include a tourism promotion fund as one of the beneficiaries. However, this amendment has not yet passed. If the CS of the National Treasury would like this amendment or introduce a new beneficiary, he should await the amendment to the parent statute. Furthermore, the Statutory Instruments Act Section 13 provides that the committee, in carrying out its scrutiny of a statutory instrument, shall ensure that it does not give retrospective effect to any of the provisions in respect of which these regulations are made. The third reason, and the last reason, Your Honorable Speaker, is that there was lack of public participation. The Statutory Instruments Act Section 11(1) requires that the regulations, when submitted to the National Assembly, must be accompanied by an explanatory memorandum of the manner and the level in which consultations and public participation were undertaken. And this is in the not only requirement of the Statutory Instruments Act, but also in the spirit of the Constitution, Article 10 and Article 118. Honorable Speaker, in concluding, we did find as a committee that it was a little perturbing that the CS would make regulations or publish regulations that have not undergone public participation. You must recall that there's also been a pronouncement by the courts that this is necessary during regulation-making process. So, Honorable Speaker, having considered the order pursuant to the provisions of the Constitution, the Article 94(6), the Air Passenger Service Charge Act, the Statutory Instruments Act, the Interpretation and General Provisions Act, which the Regulatory Medical Authority presented before us, after conferring with the regulation-making authority, having considered all the above laws, the committee recommends to this House that the Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Apportionment Order 2018, be annulled in its entirety for those reasons. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank the members of my committee. As you know, any matters relating to the National Treasury have only a 15-day window within which we must dispense with the matter. It took a lot of hard work on their part in order for us to complete this on time. And Honorable Speaker, with that, I beg to move, and I wish to request Honorable Daniel Maanzo, MP for Makueni constituency and member of the committee, to second this report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Maanzo, and you'll be brief. I'm sure this is a teacher-student relationship. Proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to second this motion. Mr. Speaker, as my very able teacher has told the House, when you make this sort of thing, you must follow the law, Mr. Speaker. And the problem is that if you introduce an apportionment of funds to the Tourism Promotion Fund, it will be contrary and inconsistent with the provisions of Section 3.3 of Air Passengers Service Charge Act, which is the enabling provision, and this will amount to violation also of the Statutory Instruments Act. And therefore, when we make instruments or we make legislation which is by the minister and which is contrary to the parent act, Mr. Speaker, then it becomes illegal and void to that extent. Mr. Speaker, also the Tourism Promotion Fund, though it can really benefit, we need the necessary legal framework, having gone through public participation, because it amounts into having two statutory bodies dealing with one fund, and several conflicts, Mr. Speaker, could arise. And therefore, such that the money serve the right purpose, Mr. Speaker, it were better to annul this and give an opportunity to the minister and the necessary authorities to bring an appropriate instruments, which, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure this House will approve. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Okay. So I propose a question, which is that the House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Apportionment, Order 2018, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 23rd August 2018, and pursuant to provisions of Section 15(1) of the Statutory Instruments Act and Standing Order 2210-4B, annuls in entirety the said regulations. I will give only 2 members and proceed and put the question. And I will start with the leader, the chair, Transport Committee, Honorable Losiakau.
I thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. People asking the other name, but that is my bull. But Speaker, they can come to me later. Speaker, I want to agree with the Committee on Delegated Legislation, so that, Mr. Speaker, it can avoid the ideas people are accusing them of annulling all these regulations. So I want to agree with them that this is in order. I've also talked to them, and the reason, Speaker, is one main, which is the Parent Act, because KCA and KAA are domiciled in my committee. The Parent Act, Speaker, only recognized 2 shareholders in that fund, which is the KAA and KCA. So where is another one? And how can a cabinet secretary at that level of treasury purport to want to gazette regulations and bring other people, Mr. Speaker, who are outside the law? And I think I want to agree with them that they are being misled, Mr. Speaker. And what the committee said yesterday, that is Delegated Legislation Chair, Honorable Cholet, I agree with you 100%. They are being misled, Mr. Speaker, by the so-called legal officers in the ministries. So I agree with them as the committee in charge. I agree with this committee. You are doing very well. And let us now talk together so that it can avoid. And I want to advise ministries, as they are listening us. If you cannot consult the Committee on Delegated Legislation, then do the honorable thing. Consult your committee, the parent committee, the responsible committee, so that then we can work out these things and avoid waste of time. I agree with them 100%, Mr. Speaker, and that was a good job, Honorable Cholet. I thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Ososi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
If you take a minute, I probably will
thank
give
you,
to
Mr.
other
Speaker.
members.
Mr. Speaker, this trend of annulling the regulation is very worrying, because from the position of the Implementation Committee, where I'm the Vice Chair, we are realizing that so many laws do not have the accompanying regulation. And any attempt to do regulation, you end up in this kind of challenge. So what we are saying is that maybe we need to look for a proactive way of dealing with this matter, so that when the regulations come to us, there are regulations that this House can adapt. And one way is by the Committee of Delegated Legislation, considering maybe having capacity building sessions with the lawyers in various ministries who draft this regulation, so that by the time these regulations come to us, they meet the expectation of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Wangari. Wanjira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know what the Committee of Implementation is looking for a scapegoat for their work. But yesterday, the chair of delegated committee actually put out the statistics in terms of the number of the regulations that we have adopted.
Actually, what you are doing, Honorable Member for Gilgil, is you really wanted to use a point of order, but you are prosecuting your case.
No.
So I will allow you to prosecute your case.
Thank you,
Just proceed.
Mr. Speaker. But is it in order for the honorable member to actually invoke that it is the committee to do capacity building for the regulations making bodies, Mr. Speaker? It is not right. We have our role as a committee, and it is for them to find out how they can improve their capacity to be able to do the regulations that they should. And more importantly, the Committee of Implementation has a lot of motions in this House that have been passed. Can they do their work to actually report to us how many have actually been implemented, and let the Committee of Delegated Legislation do their work?
Okay. Honorable Nanok Epuyo.
Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity. I wish to add my voice to the motion by saying that surely, Speaker, it is a worrying trend, as one of my colleagues observed. Even yesterday, Speaker, that worry was actually raised, that there are many annulments of regulations prepared, and regulations, Mr. Speaker, is the way that laws made by this House are implemented. And so for every annulment, it means that the execution or implementation of those acts which have been passed by this House is therefore hampered or it is delayed. And that affects service delivery, Mr. Speaker. And so it is important for the ministries concerned that actually come up with the regulations to do a little bit more. I think, Mr. Speaker, we are losing it at the point of public participation on the issue of regulations being made by various ministries to actualize various acts that have been passed by this House. It is not right. It will deny the Kenyan people the services required, and therefore these regulations, these acts that are being passed are not being made useful by the ministries concerned. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Delegated Legislation, whereas it is doing its work, Mr. Speaker, for sure, there must be some level of collaboration, cooperation, and consultation so that these regulations are not annulled in the numbers that we are witnessing in this House, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Koskei Kipkoech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Sorry for the interruption.
You see, when you get involved in activities that are not proceed, Honorable Koskei.
Yeah, I wanted to support my chair about the issue of the air regulations, Mr. Speaker. I don't know why all the CS came up with this issue. We had discussed as the committee, and we did not find any reason why the regulations had to be brought in place. Chairman, with those few remarks, I say thank you very much.
Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Chair. Let me also applaud the committee. I think since the new chair came in, a commendable work has been done. Chair, I just wanted to make a way forward, a suggestion, and the ways the leader of majority was in the House. What this is showing, Mr. Speaker, is that there is lack of legal capacities in ministries. I have information to know that some ministries don't even have legal departments. Some ministries may have very junior legal officers without any support. Therefore, we see this thing. But what should worry us most, Mr. Speaker, if they are making mistakes in this, what mistakes are they making in other agreements that they're involved in, even in terms of tenders? And the government may be losing a lot of money if we have things that are not based in law, which have been passed through ministries. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, my suggestion is that it is necessary that all ministries should have actually strong legal departments supported by the Attorney General's office. Because what is happening in the past, they just ask for the Attorney General if they can be supported. Because that is a worry, it is an indication, we can't let it pass. And again, Mr. Speaker, this then brings into notice, in the years before we had a very active and competent chair of the Committee of Delegation, what about those instruments that were passed at that time? We may then even ask ourselves whether we don't have instruments in operation that may actually be faulty. And should we get into problems, then our opponents in any legal tussle will obviously win the cases. I think these are issues that need to be addressed. Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity.
If we go that way, I think we'll get 2 more, 3 members. Honorable Mulele, a minute each, and we'll be fine. It is not working, so use the next one.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I want to support the Committee on Delegated Legislation for annulling these regulations. But more worrying, Honorable Speaker, is the fact that in the past year or 2 years, we passed in this House a levy which is being levied on all passengers who are arriving at our border points. And that levy, I am aware, has accumulated in excess of 10 billion Kenya shillings, which needs to be utilized through these regulations. So it is important that the line ministries need to be able to come up with regulations that will be able to put this money, which this parliament had passed for purposes of the use of the Ministry of Tourism to promote tourism, and also for the Airports Authority to improve the airports of this country. So it is very important that the land ministries come up with the proper regulations which are implementable. But I support the Committee on Delegated Legislation. If they bring regulations that would not comply with the law, they must be annulled.
Okay.
I support.
We will be losing numbers now, honorable members, if we take too much time. So just a minute for the Chair, Committee on Sports, and then Honorable Junet, and it will be it, and we will finalize that one.
Thank you, Mr.
Just 1 minute. We are, and the Honorable Whip, please do something.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, Mr. Speaker, tourism is under my docket. And this particular fund was meant to come and promote issues of tourism in Kenya. Considering that tourism alone actually contributes to 120 billion revenue per year, yet the budgetary support for tourism is actually 4 billion. So this air passenger tax was actually going to really assist reviving and promoting tourism. But I agree with the committee that the minister needs to come with proper legislation so that we can be able to have proper laws so that we can be able to effect that to promote tourism. Thank you very much.
Okay, Honorable Junet, one word, and then we find out, finalize.
Chair, I just want to take 1 minute to commend and to congratulate the committee for doing a good job. Chair, we remember how this committee operated in last parliament, but now this committee is functioning, and it's a very important committee of this House, Mr. Speaker. And this is one area that the executive had used long time ago to do a lot of injustice to the people of this country, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the committee, and I want to tell the chair, don't feel intimidated. Annul all of them if they don't make sense. Annul all of them. Madam Chair, listen to me. Annul all regulations. Thank you.
Okay, so let's have the mover to reply.
Honorable Speaker, I just want to thank the members who have contributed to this debate and also congratulated us. Thank you, Honorable Jeanette, for your kind words. I think it has been well canvassed, this particular recommendation. So with those few remarks, I wish to beg to move that we adopt the report.
Well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, honorable members, seeing that we have the required numbers, I proceed to put the question, which is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on Air Passenger Service Charge Act, Appointment Order 2018, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 23rd August 2018, and pursuant to provisions of Sections 15.1 of the Statutory Instruments Act and Standing Order 2210-4B, announce in entirety the said regulation. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, Committee of the Whole House.
Okay. Well, members, we are now in Committee of the Whole House. Members, let's settle down so that we can prosecute the business that is before us on the finance bill from where we left yesterday. We left at new clause number 58. 58. And also we recommitted clause number 18, new C and 31. The two chairs of delegated and sports, if you can allow us to proceed, we'll be glad, so that you don't stand in the gangways.
New clause 58A.
I propose the question that new clause 58A be part of the bill. I see interest from the...
It needs to be moved fast.
Yes, the chair, yes, before the Honorable Jude can say something to it. You need to move it. It's a new clause. It's a proposed new clause.
Honorable, thank you, Honorable Chair. I beg to move that new clause 58A be read the second time.
Honorable members, look at page 1093 of the order paper. Page 1093. 1093 page.
All right, the import of this, Mr. Chair, is that of late you have realized that the banks have been introducing regulations left, right. When you visit the bank like now, you are asked before you withdraw, you should specify where you are going to pay the money, who are you paying, and it is your money. When you are depositing, the same stories are brought in. But now, the people in Kenya have been asking us, wherever we are, why are you making laws which are disturbing us? And we are asking us a lot of questions, and it is even making the country risky. Most people now are keeping their money in their house because they don't want a lot of questions. But that is, the questions can be okay. But do they have the full force of the law? They are not made by this house. They are not even coming through regulations which are brought through delegated legislation. So this particular new clause 58A will require that central bank, when they make regulations, they must be brought through this house for an endorsement to have the full force of the law, so that any other regulation which are made by any busybody outside the country, outside this house, will just be a paper. They must come through this house. This is the only house which has mandate to make legislation in this country. That is the justification for this, and I beg that this house support this new clause 58A.
Honorable members, I therefore now propose that new clause 58A, as moved by the chair of finance, be now read a second time. I see interest from the Honorable Abdullah Sheikh, member for Mandera North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this clause talks about the central bank may prescribe in regulations conditions on deposits or withdrawals by customers in banks and financial institutions. This to me is ambiguous. What are these regulations and conditions? Are we giving blanket to central bank to decide whatever they want to do to Kenyans? The mover has talked about Kenyans asking them that they have been asked unanswered questions, filling in questionnaires, so many things. Where are these regulations? Where are these conditions for us to go through so we know whether they're in tandem with the general public? But now we are told central bank will prescribe on conditions on how to withdraw, how to deposit. Where are these conditions? Where are these prescriptions? Please, we need to be told so that as a house you go through, so we don't give blanket things to central bank to decide on matters banking, touching on the lives of innocent Kenyans.
Very well, Honorable Member, from where I sit, I think what the chair was proposing to do is to bring within the ambit of statutory instruments that must be brought to the House, so that those questions that you ask at the bank then must have the stamp of the authority of this House. But I think the chair is here. For clarification purposes, then we shall move to this side. The chair.
Yeah. Let me give further information. You see, currently, let us understand this way. Currently, what we have actually put in legislation here is actually happening. Already, let us take it this way. Reality is, when you go to the bank, there is already this particular regulation that you must explain where you got the money when you are depositing. You must also equally explain when you are withdrawing any amount above 1 million. You must explain where you are taking. So in those particular regulations which are already in the bank have no full force of the law. We are now requiring that in the law, the central bank can make, we are bringing in to the House now that they can make the regulation. However, if you look at number 2, the central bank shall prescribe the regulation under subsection 1 within 30 days of coming into force of this section. That means whatever regulation which is being used by the banks now, within 30 days, it will actually be null and void, because they must bring to this House.
Very well, the Honorable Limo. Now we shall have the Honorable Junet. Is that the point you wanted to make?
Yeah, Chair, I just want to reiterate what because if the regulations are not in conformity with what the member wants, then we'll annul them here, just the way we annulled a few minutes ago some other regulations.
Very well. Yeah. The Honorable Dr. Makali. The Honorable Dr. Makali, I think you are happy, so I will allow the...
No, you know, Mr. Chairman, I like what the chairperson of the committee is saying, that now we don't have an opportunity to look at the regulations, and that's why things are happening the way they're happening. But now through this new clause, the regulation will be coming to this House for us to approve. And once we approve, then they can be effected. I think I support this new clause. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. The Honorable Nguchine, the member for Central Imenti.
My contribution is that if you look at that 3B, it states that the central bank may prescribe. If you go to, that is subsection 1. If you go to subsection 2, it says that the central bank shall, which means the first one, we give the central bank an option to do it or not to do it. And then it contradicts subsection 2, because in subsection 2, you say it is a must. Now, even if you go to any enforceable institution to enforce the same, these two subsections contradict one another. If it is shall, it should be shall, because shall means or must, continuous. That's what it means in A and B. And then, when it comes to these regulations, conditions, or deposit and withdrawals to the customers, There is nowhere where it is prescribed that it's going to come to this house. It is left in blank. And when it is left like that, there is no way that you can claim their own letter that you meant or you left it ambiguous. So that you can purport to say that you indicated, you wanted to intimate that it is going to come to this house. So they should, in black and white, indicate that it's going, the regulations must pass through this house for them to be enforced. That's the position, Chair.
The honorable member Nguchina, I think that's a valid point. Chair, you need to look into that because in one, you are saying May, which you are giving them an option. Now, in the second one, let us hear the chair.
Information here is, you know, when you are making a law requiring regulations to be made, you know, generally, we are not asking central bank to make regulations because, you know, they can either make or not make. That means they can require that banks, you as customers, you are free to deposit or withdraw without any information, or they can actually require that you must give some information. So we are giving them leeway to make regulations. However, if they make regulation, number 2 requires that they must, within 30 days, yeah, they must within 30 days. Maybe, maybe this particular number 2 is the one which now requires that this particular regulation should be brought to this house. Because this shall means in the event that they make regulation, they must actually be taken through the required procedures to approve regulations. And the third one,
yes,
is saying for avoidance of doubt, no other person shall purport to make regulations required under this section, and any existing guidelines or regulations prescribing conditions on deposit and withdrawal by customers shall cease operation within 14 days.
Very well. Very well. Just 1 second. The Honorable Nguchine, I hope you've been listening to what the chair has been saying, but let us make progress. The Honorable TJ, you seem to be agitated
No,
about
I'm
this.
not. I'm very happy this morning, and I'm very settled, Mr. Chair.
Very well.
The chair has explained something, but listen to us, Mr. Chair. We understand what you have, but the way you have drafted your law will not do what you want to achieve. Because, listen to this, in subsection 1, you very well say that central bank may prescribe. That is the way legislation must be done, because it is may. They may choose to do it. They may also not choose to do it. This is correct. But when you go to subsection 2, and then you say that central bank shall prescribe those coming into force of these regulations, the regulations will be done within 31 days. It's a different ballgame. But the way you've done it, the understanding is that if they don't do it within 30 days, they will not do those regulations at all. That's the understanding here. So you just need to do a further, you can get help from the table to do a further amendment and get your wording here correctly so that you do what you mean.
Very well. I think the Honorable TJ makes sense, actually, because looking at this, it looks like under subsection 2, you are saying that they must. Yes. I think from what I understand the chair to say is that they may as well prescribe or may not. But what we want to do, what we want to achieve is where they actually prescribe those regulations, then they must come to the House within 30 days. That is not the effect of your subsection 2. So just think about it as members contribute. The Honorable Jude Jomo?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, and that is exactly what I wanted to emphasize. That it is very, very important that the only people who can make laws are members of parliament who are in this house and MCAs who are in county assemblies. Nobody else makes law. But when a ministry or any other organization would like some regulations or some laws to be made, they must be brought to this house. But I also agree with TJ Kajwang Mheshimiwa that this has not been properly defined here. It is not properly drafted. And if you know about Treasury and Central Bank, these are guys of Kisungu Mingi. They'll go and translate these into their own language and start doing funny things. So we must put very simple and straightforward language here, which will be understood easily. Thank you, Chairman.
The Honorable Manzo, then we'll have the Honorable Sicily.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to say...
I see you leader of minority. I'll give you an opportunity.
Yes, Chair, I want to agree with what members said, but I want to tell the Chair in charge of this committee that already these regulations are in use. If you deposit 1 million shillings today, you must explain where you've gotten it. And you find it written somewhere in the bank, some of the banks. It is not yet harmonized. And when a practice is already going on, Mr. Chair, the work of delegated committee, which I am in, is to summon those people here and tell them you either bring it formally or not. Now, that has not been provided in law, and we are attempting to make it now. This is very important. What we just need to do now with the assistance of the lawyers here and the officers of Parliament is to draft it correctly and capture it correctly so that we bring this to a law so that we can regulate what is already happening and Kenyans are already suffering and put it in law because it is not already in law and it is already in practice, Mr. Chair.
Chair, I just want to add my voice also to those that have spoken. Number one, I think these regulations are already there, but they are not anchored in any known law at the moment. And so it's important that we do so. But more importantly is to make sure that these regulations come to Parliament to ensure that they're in line with the laws of Kenya, with the Constitution of Kenya. But I have this concern when we say the central bank may prescribe. I think that may leaves them to do it or not to do it. I think it should be mandatory, shall, so that we are not dealing with any gray area, Mr. Chairman. So maybe the chairman should consider, and I want to go to support what the Honorable TJ has said. I think this whole provision needs to be rewarded so that we don't leave any ambiguity or gray area that can be misused.
Very well. We shall have the leader of minority. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman,
we'll come to you.
Much as I may not have a problem with really Parliament reining in on these regulations that come up, banks just come up with regulations, things that really you ask yourself who gave them the powers to make laws. But my concern is why we find it necessary to use finance bill to bring such kind of amendments. In my view, this is, finance bill is supposed to deal with taxes and revenue raising measures. If it is a matter of administration, we are members of Parliament here, sometimes we even lack bills to debate. Why can't members just generate amendment to the Banking Act so that we debate, we even involve public participation, because Kenyans probably also have a say in how these things need to be conducted. So in my view, I think, and with all due respect to the chairman, I think this is amendment proposed by the chairman of the committee. I think the best thing to do is avoid these amendments coming through finance bill and just the committee can generate an amendment bill to the Banking Act. We debate it, we give it full thought, including those legal issues and the drafting. It can be better dealt with in an amendment bill rather than amendment to the like the one we have before us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So in that case, for me, why don't we just do away with this amendment instead of disturbing our minds so that we engage our minds to other useful things, and we allow the committee to go and bring an amendment to the Banking Act. Thank you.
Very well. Your contributions are noted, Chair. We shall have the Honorable Wangari.
Thank you, Chair. And picking from what Honorable Mbadi has said, my suggestion and my contribution to the chairman, if you read number 2, the central bank shall prescribe the regulations under subsection 1 within 30 days of coming into force of this section. Mr. Chairman, what we are running away from is the fact that this regulations, however illegal, have been in application. So what we are trying to do is actually to put it in the proper way. And how to do that, Mr. Chairman, my proposal would be, from the delegated committee point of view, is that we put it and anchor it to the Statutory Instruments Act, that these two will be prescribed as in accordance to the Statutory Instruments Act. What that will do, Mr. Chairman, is that it will put the necessary timelines that are prescribed how regulations should be made. It will also take care of the issue of public participation, because if they don't go through the public participation, we'll have a situation where we can sit down and say they have not done the right way and we can annul them. Then, therefore, Mr. Chairman, my proposal to the chair is that even as we reward it, let us anchor these regulations in accordance to the Statutory Instruments Act, because it prescribes the timing, it prescribes the manner, and it prescribes how the law should be applied. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. The Honorable Ichumo.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I rise to support the amendment. And Chair, I think I listened to the leader of minority, and he has a point in the Finance Committee bringing meaningful amendments, not just to the Banking Act, but even the amendments that are proposed on the interest capping law. It's imperative not just for the Chair Finance, but also for the National Treasury, or maybe the committee, to formulate meaningful changes even to the overall credit management system in the country. And that is something, that is why Chair was very opposed yesterday to the interest capping changes that were proposed by the National Treasury. It needs to be relooked into more deeper than just bringing through the finance bill. However, on this one, Chair, I support, and I think I want to concur with what former Senator Angare, the Honorable Member for Gilgil, I still see as a senator, the member for Gilgil is saying, not just conforming with the Statutory Instruments Act, but this amendment is actually in line with Article 94 of our Constitution, that no other body other than Parliament has the powers to make laws or any regulations that have the force of law. Therefore, for Central Bank to be purporting to make regulations that will have the force of law without those regulations coming here in the first place has been illegal. And I think all we are doing is to clean up that mess, and that's why I would support what the committee is proposing, that we are just making effective the provisions of Article 94. That Central Bank may opt, and we are not taking away their powers to make regulations. They will be able to make regulations that will be able to regulate the industry. But those regulations, to have the force of law, must come to this House. Because we also represent people, and we must have, the people must have a say in those regulations, because they affect the way people conduct business. Honorable Speaker, I'll tell you, I have done business in Nyamakima for many years. That is an industry down here in Nyamakima that is cash-based. 1 million shillings in Nyamakima is like 10,000 shillings in upmarket Nairobi. Therefore, for us to transact 1 million shillings in cash, Honorable Speaker, we feel CBK has been stifling the growth of business. In the same breath, Honorable Speaker, you and me know during campaigns, 1 million shillings in a day, Honorable Speaker, you know how difficult it was to pay for all your logistics. Nobody will trust a politician to get any good or service during campaigns on credit. You have to pay it in cash. So we have to keep queuing in banks every morning to withdraw 900,000 shillings today. Tomorrow afternoon, another 999,000 shillings. Therefore, it is only fair that we support this amendment by the committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ishumo, you can see the way members are looking at you when you say 1 million shillings is very little money, pocket change. It is, we know, we recognize, and I tell you that it
means, Chairman, yes. And it did not. That is why, Honorable Chair, I was very quick to support the lifestyle audit.
Very well.
Because I am not just a man of means now, yes. Since being a politician. I am a seasoned accountant who worked for many years as a senior finance person. From that, I went into very successful business.
Very well.
Downtown Nyamakima, by the way.
Very
Not
well.
anywhere else.
Honorable
That's why I'm saying
Eshumu.
a million shillings there is small change.
That was just beside the point. We shall have the Honorable Nyikal, then we shall go to the chairman so that we can clean this up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this bill. I think it's important that we really support our people. Banks, in a way, have really gone haywire, bringing all kinds of regulations, even charging you when you deposit money. Actually, when you give them money, which they use for trade, they charge you, and nobody says how much they should charge. Sometimes I joke that the next thing they'll charge us for is for the air we breathe when we go to the bank. Therefore, bringing that, all the regulations come to us is extremely important. But Mr. Chairman, I would also like to add that the committee has the opportunity to see many of these areas where it is necessary to make substantive laws. So, Chair of the committee, this is my suggestion, Chair, that having seen through this, we should not just suggest, but please go ahead and look at all areas where we need substantive laws to be made, consolidate them and bring them into this House so that we actually have substantive laws, so that we don't use the finance bill to bring pieces. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. The Honorable Lassonet, then the Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Chairman, having been a banker before coming to this House, I stand to support this very wonderful amendment. You will notice, Chairman, that the Central Bank of Kenya has been issuing circulars every week on everything, on foreign currency transactions, on cash deposits, cash withdrawal, and in fact, ignoring the requirement of including those circulars to this House. So, Chairman, I totally support this amendment that such circulars, including regulations, the Central Bank has to process them in accordance with the Statutory Instruments Act so that they can be looked at by this House before they become operational. And Chairman, with just those very brief remarks, just to support this amendment, I thank you.
Very well. Members, as you consider this, I would like you to just take note of what statutory instrument means under the Statutory Instruments Act. The definition of that means any rule, order, regulation, direction, form, tariff of costs or fees, letters, patent, commission, warrant, other statutory instrument issued, made, or established in the execution of a power conferred by or under an act of parliament under which that statutory instrument or subsidiary legislation is expressly authorized. So all these things are covered here. So it is proper. Chair, how do you intend to clean this so that we can make progress?
All right. I also would like to bring to the attention of the House that besides, these regulations have been very haywire. Besides, I don't know whether you are aware that besides the regulations which have been issued by Central Bank, the Kenya Bankers Association, I think a month ago, have now even reverted the gains which we have gotten through so many years. They have reverted to the old way of operation where if you want to withdraw money beyond a certain limit, you give notice of 3 days. And that is very dangerous. Because the moment you give notice, then employees in the bank even can give those information to people outside. That so-and-so is coming after 3 days to withdraw 10 million. The issue of confidentiality. So this particular regulation will actually, even on 3, will actually ensure that no other person will make any regulations without following. Now, Mr. Chair, I wish to make further amendment to these particular regulations that on subsection 1, by replacing the word may with shall, so that it will read, the central bank shall prescribe in regulations conditions on deposits or withdrawals by customers in banks and financial institutions. That is in subsection 1. In subsection 2, I wish to delete the whole subsection 2 and replace with the following, that the central bank shall, within 30 days of coming into force of this act, prescribe regulations setting out conditions for deposit and and withdrawals by customers in banks and financial institutions in accordance with the Statutory Instruments Act, so that this will ensure that it must come to this House for avoidance of doubt. That is a further amendment which I'm moving, Mr. Chair.
So we shall put the question. So members then, I think you have all heard the proposed further amendments by the chair. I will therefore propose the question. Yes, I will now put the question that new clause 58A be read a second time. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Yes. I now put the question, honorable members, that new clause 58A be part of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
New clauses 58A.
Honorable members, there is a further proposed new clause 58A. I will therefore propose the question that new clause 58A be part of the bill. The Honorable Jude, this is yours.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, it is on page 1103 of your order paper. I move
it. Chair, I beg to move that new section 58A be read a second time. Chair, this section is a requirement that every banking institution must secure 10% of its loan portfolio to be loaned to small and medium enterprises. The Chairman, this was brought by the desire to encourage banks to lend to wananchi. Because if you remember, after the capping of interest rates was done, the banks withdrew their support to their credit to small and medium enterprises and generally to wananchi. And this actually was, we could term it as economic sabotage because it really affected many sectors of businesses. So what we are trying to do here is to secure credit to those in the small and medium enterprises who qualify for the loans. Yesterday, while we were discussing this same bill, two honorable members came to me, Honorable Amos Kemunya and Honorable Charles Kilonzo. And they were convincing me to withdraw this particular amendment, and they had two good reasons. One, there are banks that do not have SMEs banking with them. There are banks which do corporate banking without actually having members of public banking in those institutions. And their argument was that this may not apply to them. Secondly, Treasury was very much against this particular amendment, although I would not like to listen to them so much, but they were talking about the freedom of banks to do business, that this will interfere with the spirit of liberalization. But also as a house, we must also be driven by the spirit of mwananchi, because the banks sometimes do not listen to mwananchi. So I stand to be advised by this house whether we go ahead with this amendment or we withdraw it.
The Honorable Jude, this is your proposal. It is for you to deal with it as you wish. If you move it, then it shall belong to the House. But before you move it, it is up to you to deal with it as you wish. No, he has to move it. It is his.
I beg to move this.
Very well.
Thank you.
I will therefore, honorable members, allow me to propose the question so that it can now become the property of the House. I propose the question that new clause 58A, as moved by the Honorable Jude Jomo, be now read a second time. We shall have the leader of majority. Members, you will have time to speak to this. I will allow the leader of minority. Leader of minority, the Honorable Mbadi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How I wish your wish comes true. But anyway, let me contribute to this amendment. Mr. Chairman, I want to persuade Honorable Jude Njomo that I understand you completely. And I think this is a concern that as a country we have. Immediately we passed the amendment to the Banking Act, which we must thank Honorable Njomo, because there are some Kenyans who have forgotten that this interest rate cap was actually his bill, which became an act of parliament. I understand you that the frustrations that the small and medium-sized businesses are going through, but to me, I think you need to bring an amendment, standalone amendment, that we can debate properly. Probably the solution is not on prescribing the percentage or the amount to be allocated to small and medium-sized businesses. The solution could be a rethink as a country on our borrowing from banks by the government. Because actually that is where the problem is. The problem is that banks have alternative people to lend to. And this alternative is the government. So if we can manage that, then we may not even need to go this way. Because again, we don't want to send a wrong signal, Mr. Chairman, as a country, as a wrong signal in the economy, that this is a country of regulation, and regulation period. We only want to regulate where we feel Kenyans are really being hurt or are hurting. But we don't want to over-regulate. So to me, Mr. Chairman, I think I want to oppose this amendment, not because I don't see the merit in it, but because I think it's not properly thought out at this point in time. Thank you.
The member for Bomet, the Honorable Tonui Kiprotich.
Thank you, Chair. I've been trying to get your attention. I want to support that amendment proposed by Honorable Jude Jomo. I believe this is good intention to take care of the small businesses. Currently, our biggest problem is unemployment, and we need to help the small businesses to pick up. So by bringing in the issue of at least 10% of lending should go towards that direction, I believe that is in the right direction. The issue of, which has been raised by the majority leader, that it needs a standalone. It's a small amendment. In fact, it's a one-line amendment. So it is in order that it comes through this bill. So I fully support it, and I believe when the people of the constituents of Mbati do support this thing, because it will benefit them as small people. Let's not be advocate of the large banking sector to the treatment of our people. Thank you.
The member for Lamu West.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to support this motion because you know very well, Chair, that at the marketplace now, our youth cannot access facilities from the banks. Our women who are doing small businesses of selling samaki and vegetables and the like cannot access facilities simply because the government or Treasury or Central Bank is the one which is consuming a lot of the money of money, and the banks are lending to Central Bank. So our young people, our children, who we have taken to universities, and they have nowhere to go, they end up being frustrated, they turn to drugs. So by supporting this or subjecting the banks to set aside 10% to lend to the small people and to the medium enterprises, we'll be supporting the cadre of the small business, and this is the only way we are able to support the economy of this country, and this is the only way we are able to empower, and in the next 10 years, these young people or these people of this, who are doing small businesses, Mr. Chair, they will be able to do a turnover that the banks will be fighting for them. Mr. Chair, in 10 years, you will find that the banks will be fighting for these business people who we are going to nurture by allowing this a clause to be included. I hear very well what the minority have said about the standalone, but I think going by the current situation, we need to allow this to pass. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. The member for Suba North. The member for Kikuyu has had his bite on it. Let the member for Suba North also speak. Use the next one.
It doesn't work. Hello? Hello? Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to thank Honorable Jude Jomo for bringing this amendment. Chair, the small to medium enterprises are actually what runs this country. Even if you walk on the streets of this country, all the people that are being chased are small to medium enterprises, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, Chair. And Chair, since we had the interest capping, what the banks have done is to actually try to manipulate Parliament to bring back by putting these stringent conditions for them to get loans. So I know Honorable Mbadi being a person from a financial background setup would want to think about not regulating or over-regulating, but we must also have a human face in this Parliament. We represent people, first and foremost. So, Chair, for me, I would totally and fully want to support this. If the banks are then able to find ways of dealing, then they can bring back and then we'll repeal. But for now, it is in our interest as legislators to defend the small to medium enterprises that are no longer getting businesses. And it helps our young people who don't have jobs. I support.
The member for Tindred.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to support this amendment, and I want to thank Honorable Jude Jomo for actually being considerate, especially to the business community of this country, and also to make sure that money is availed to the SMEs. Chair, you'll realize that even in the developed countries or developing countries of Southeast Asia like China, they have developed banks that are tailor-made to sectors like the Agriculture Bank, the Export Bank, and all these. All these banks support sectors that are going to grow the economy. So you'll realize that this bill will actually make the banks give the 10% borrowing to the SMEs so that they will have enterprises and will have businesses growing around. So I support Mr. Chair. Thank you.
The member for Butula.
Thank you, Chair. I stand, Chair, to support this amendment. It is clear, Chair, that the small business people have suffered a lot in this country. No attention has been given to them because of the volume of business they carry out. So if Parliament sets aside a certain amount to support the small businesses, I'm sure the economy is going to grow. If you go out in the rural areas, Chair, you will find table banking. And without table banking, these people cannot manage, improve on their businesses. But if they get this allocation, the 10%, Chair, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of improvement in the businesses in this country. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, so that we can just make progress. I think we are only more
unless you have something contrary that... I'm going to give two people, one on this side, one on this side, and that will be the Honorable Wanga from the Homa Bay, and the Honorable Koi.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I don't have something contrary. I'd like to support the amendment by Honorable Jude Njomo. The reason is, Chair, currently, we have a 30% government policy for AGPO, youth, persons with disabilities, women who mostly run the small and medium-sized enterprises. But you find that a lot of these businesses, they are unable to do them. They are unable to raise capital to actually do the AGPO. And what ends up happening is the people who are actually getting even the AGPO quota are just established businesses who do the registration using some youth or some women or some persons with disabilities. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, there couldn't be a better place. And if there are any macroeconomic effects of this particular amendment, I think those adjustments should be made accordingly by Treasury. But I'd like to see a situation where our banks are actively looking for small and micro enterprises to lend money to, instead of small and micro enterprises being frustrated in banks everywhere, and instead just the big companies being lent huge amounts of money. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honorable Jude Njomo and I support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I want to thank Honorable Chomo for having brought this amendment. Mr. Chair, this country needs to grow economically, and it cannot grow economically without these small enterprises people, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we represent people, and these are the people, the small enterprise people, Mr. Chair, are the ones whom we represent, and we need to support them as a country, Mr. Chair. And I stand here to support the amendment, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
The Honorable Junet.
Chair, I just wanted to say one thing. I just wanted to persuade the Honorable Jude Njomo to withdraw this amendment. For the fact that, for the reason that, Chair, it might not be enforceable. How to enforce it and how to make sure the banks enforce that 10% of their loan goes to small and medium enterprises might be difficult. The second reason being that we have not done proper analysis. Maybe even now, banks are lending more than 10% to SMEs. Maybe they are giving them 40% as we speak now. We don't have that data with us as we speak now. And thirdly, it can, if it's not enforceable, it might just become like a black law in letter, but you cannot enforce it. Until we get proper analysis and proper, figures, then we can amend the Banking Act at a later date, and then come up with an enforcement mechanism to do it. So I persuade you to leave it for now.
Very well. The member for Lagdera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like also to add my voice on this. As much as this is a good proposal, I have some few concerns regarding this amendment. First of all, I think the problem with the loan uptake of SMEs is not about the availability of the loans. It's about collateral security. Most SMEs and small businesses do not have collateral. So, like Honorable Junaid has said, we need to get a data on what the uptake of loans by small businesses are at the moment. In the absence of that, if we can pass this regulation, and then enforcement becomes a problem. So I think as much as this is a good proposal for the SMEs, we need to have proper data. We need to have data of how the situation is at the moment. And in that regard, I don't support this amendment. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Member for Funyula.
Chair, thank you for this opportunity. While the proposal by Honorable Jude Njomo seems very laudable and timely, I have a few concerns and because of those concerns, I would request him, I would beseech him to either withdraw or redraft the particular amendment to avoid, first of all, three issues critical that are here, to avoid a case of over-regulations and generally stifling decision-making in the banks. But specifically, Chair, the problem with SMEs in this country access to the loans is not the availability of the funds. It's the question of collateral, assessment of risk, and business proposal. My suggestion, Chair, will be to redo this particular section to give the central bank the powers to set regulations, rules, and systems that can allow the SMEs to access credit on more favorable terms, so that we allow for us to be given enough time to develop tools, regulations, and approaches that will allow the SMEs, the banks, to lend to SMEs without really stifling the work of the banks. Mr. Chair, generally, if you look at Uwezo Fund, you look at Women Enterprise Fund, you look at Youth Fund, we look at now probably the proposed development bank, you look at KIE, they have adequate funds for SMEs. The problem lies in credit evaluation, risk management, and the issue of collateral. Therefore, I want to ask Mheshimiwa Judy Njomo to relook at this, either withdraw or redraft it, shifting the burden of proposal to the central bank, because even the issue of the 30% to women and the rest is basically not law, it's a government policy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Jude Jomo.
Thank you, Chair. Members, thank you very much for the support you have given to this amendment. And I want to assure members who are feeling like we don't have enough data, that we had researched on this and SMEs are getting much, much lower than 10%. However, I feel like I can reluctantly withdraw this for the following reasons. Members, let me explain to you. In Zambia, the Zambian parliament passed the capping of interest rates about 10 years ago. And the banks in Zambia looked for a small reason, and they went to court. The court gave an injunction. The substantive case has not ended 10 years later. Here in this country, there was the DODE bill. And DODE bill was passed by this parliament, and it was passed, but it was taken to court and it was nullified.
The Honorable Ishumo, what is out of order?
Chair, I seek your guidance, because as much as I appreciate, and I probably, having consulted with Jude, I am in agreement for withdrawal and maybe resubmission of the bill in a more comprehensive manner. Because I am aware, and I know, Chair, that even the industry, the banking industry, what I find out of order, Chair, just to go straight to the point, is the Honorable Jude Njomo, in justifying the withdrawal, besides other reasons, to be drawing reference to issues to do with judicial processes. And I think it's only the other day, Honorable Chair, that the Speaker was guiding us, that we should do our work in this House without reference to whatever other authorities. We have the powers to legislate, and we should not do so with fear that anybody will go to court. It is within everybody's right. The courts never give reference to what everybody else is doing. Therefore, I am amiable to the withdrawal, Honorable Chair. But for the other reasons that I am privy to from Honorable Jude Jomo, but I would feel slighted as a member of Parliament
so that we can make progress.
Have reference to the judicial processes.
The Honorable Ichumo order. I know you are sitting next to the Honorable Jude and the Honorable Jomo, and you might be detecting waves of fear, but from where the chair is sitting, I see no fear in the countenance of the Honorable Jomo. He's been a man who has been known to do his work without any fear, and I doubt that he's intimidated even now. The Honorable Jude Jomo, proceed to deal with your proposed amendment as you deem fit.
Chairman.
The Honorable Tonui, what is out of order?
Thank you, Chair. I want to seek your guidance.
Yes.
He had already moved it.
Yes.
So I believe he's outside, he's out of his hands.
Very well.
He's
very well.
within
very
the house. He can no longer afford to
He
withdraw.
was just
it.
interrupted before he completed. You are right.
He can no longer withdraw. He doesn't have the power. He had already moved. So it's the business of the house now.
The Honorable Tonui, you need to refresh yourself with our standing orders. He can withdraw any time. The Honorable Jude, proceed.
What Honorable Shongwa has done is what in my language we say is like Mokorino jumping before the drums are sounded. Because I was in the middle of explaining why I feel that we may be doing disservice to the amendments rather than doing service to the amendment. We should not give people opportunities to poke holes in the laws that we are making. This is an amendment that was introduced just the other day. They will go to court and say there was no public participation on that particular amendment. So I feel that it is better that I withdraw this amendment, then we go and do a thorough job on it, then we bring it back so that it will stand the test of time. Secondly, the banks themselves had offered to give 10% of their loan portfolio to SMEs. So they have not done it yet. So we know it is something that can be worked. And in the amendment, we will give even the regulations on how it is going to be effected. So I wish to withdraw. Thank you very much.
Very well. That is the end of that particular proposed amendment. We shall make progress.
New clause 58C.
I propose the question that new clause 58C be part of the bill. Be now read us. Be part of the bill, yes. That is page 1104 of the order paper. The Honorable Jude Jomo.
Huh?
1104.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, I want to beg that clause 58C be part of the bill. Sorry, I want to beg that clause 58C be read a second time.
Honorable members, allow me then to propose that the question. Jude, the Honorable Jude, before I give this to the House, you need to give members a basis on which you propose.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
The leader of minority, allow him to prosecute his proposed amendment.
Thank you, Chair. This particular amendment is informed by the desire to have stable banks, strong and stable. And it was, the same law had been passed in 2016. It was proposed in 2016, but there was an outcry by banks and they asked for an extension or an execution to be delayed for 2 years, which are elapsing now. But in the meantime, 2 banks have failed. Imperial Bank collapsed, Chase Bank collapsed, although now it is
it's coming to life again. So this amendment is asking the banks to improve on their core capital from 2 billion to 5 billion in a period of 3 years, from 2019 to 2021. When we do this, we shall have strong banks and we shall have deposits of wananchi and customers safe in banks. We don't want wananchi to take their money to banks and then they are collapsing the following day. And that is why we want, to have strong banks.
Honorable members, it's not yet your property. So let him move it, then you will deal with it.
So
he's still on his feet.
So my prayer to members is to support this amendment so that we shall have strong banks that are not collapsing with customers' money, banks that are going to support the economy of our country. And I would like to cite an example. In Nigeria, when the Nigerian parliament passed the improvement or increment of core capital, Nigeria, which had over 100 banks, many of them were Juakali banks which were almost collapsing. They were forced to come together, and today Nigeria has about 10 very strong banks, banks that are not collapsing, banks that are supporting the economy.
Out of order.
So members, I want to persuade you to support this so that we shall have strong banks. And I beg to move.
Honorable members, I propose the question. The Honorable Chris Wamalwa. What is out of order? Can the chair be out of order, really?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. With due respect, Chair, this is a substantive amendment that should go to the Principal Act of the Banking Act.
The Honorable Chris Wamalwa, you're out of order. The Honorable Chris Wamalwa, you're out of order. I said it is not yet your property. If you had just waited a little while, you would have been able to say those things with effect. So let me propose the question. I propose the question that new clause 58C be now read a second time. The Honorable Chris Wamalwa, now you are in order. You can say those things you are saying.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the banking industry plays a very critical role as far as economic development is concerned. Mr. Speaker, there are some few people who are in this banking industry that they want to increase the entry barrier so that other people cannot enter this business market, Mr. Speaker. I'm saying so, Mr. Speaker, because we have banks in this country which have a specific origin. And when it comes to going to access that loan, at times when you're not favorable, it becomes difficult to access these loans, Mr. Speaker. Or in case of default, they exercise discretion, and Mr. Speaker, you are being harassed. As we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, the issue is not about the issue of stability or increasing the core capital as far as banks are concerned. This similar amendment had come back in the last parliament, Mr. Speaker, and we rejected this particular amendment of increasing the capital requirement from 2 billion to 5 billion. As I speak right now, Mr. Speaker, in my area where I come from, we are struggling to bring up a bank. We have now reached 1 billion. The time we reached 500 million, it went up. Now we have reached 1 billion, you want to reach 2 billion, you want now to increase to 5 billion, so that the already banks that are existing, they continue enjoying abnormal profits that you don't want other people to come in to enjoy that benefit, Mr. Speaker. We want to oppose this. This is a major amendment that must be able to go to the Banking Act. It cannot come through miscellaneous, and it must be subjected to Article 118 of the Constitution of Public Participation, Mr. Speaker. Even Kenyans want to own banks, not just specific people, and we want to reject this selfish amendment, Mr. Speaker. We reject
Very well. The Honorable Chris Wamalwa, you are very passionate about this, and we'll allow the Honorable Tongi. The Honorable Tongi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak into this amendment. Mr. Speaker, the amendment therein is founded on the grounds that the banks have suffered and have suffered a lot in the past. We have a history of banks which have closed down, Mr. Speaker, And in the process, people have lost a lot of money. We are all aware of what's going on with Imperial Bank, Mr. Speaker. We are all aware of what's going on with Chase Bank, Mr. Speaker. And the part of the reasons why the banks have gone under is because they were founded on a very weak foundation, Mr. Speaker. And the foundation, as a bank, I'm speaking now with authority, the foundation of a bank, Mr. Speaker, is the capital base. If the capital base is weak, Mr. Speaker, therefore it follows that the bank, unless managed very well, is going to collapse. Mr. Speaker, I would go with the amendment. However, we give it, we cascade it, so that we don't have to do it all at once. We cascade it in such a way that it graduates from one point to the next one, so that we are able to safeguard the money, the investment of the people of Kenya, who are going to put in a lot of the investment in the bank in the faith that the bank is strong enough to keep their wealth. Mr. Speaker, if we don't manage that and we are empowered to do that as a members of parliament, we'll have lost our core foundation of protecting the Kenyans.
Are you supporting or you are not in support?
I support, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. We shall have honorable members, honorable members. We can only speak one at a time, and you know this, and you have pressed this. I am allowing some of the members who have not spoken at all since morning and who have been here. The Honorable Kilonzo, kindly proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I think, Chair, this House should not be used to legislate to form cartels. What the Honorable Member is proposing to amend, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure now the big banks actually become a cartel. We have small financial institutions which are crucial, which are planning to become banks like Unitas and many others. And Mr. Speaker, I thought Honorable Jumbo fights for the small people. Today you have let us down now, going to fight for the cartels. I oppose.
The Honorable Nduati. The Honorable Nduati.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I stand here to oppose this amendment. This one is going to kill the local businessmen. I come from Muranga. I know how Equity started. Honorable Kilonzo has spoken about Unitas. It's a growing bank. If we do this, it means that our people will be out of business. I also want to give another example. This has happened in the construction industry. It has also happened in the construction industry where people categorize others. You say that category 1, you have to do works worth more than 2 billion, which means our people are not able even to compete for those jobs. So, and this one I oppose and I oppose.
The Honorable Milemba Omboko.
Thank you, Chair. Whereas I've been following Honorable Njomo very keenly, and he has stood for the people and socialism at one time, and he is a great guy. But his oscillation from one side to the other side of capitalism by gagging other people to enter into the banking sector shows inconsistency. This particular amendment...
The Honorable Ishumo, let me just deal with it. The Honorable Milemba, you will not discuss the oscillation or whatever it is, beliefs of the Honorable Member who has brought this proposal. That one you must withdraw.
I withdraw and I'm advised. Right. Thank you. But, Chair, I want to say that the collapsing of banks really has nothing to do with the capital base. We have seen even big banks fall. And that should not be used as an excuse to gag other players into the banking sector. For a long time, at the time of independence, banking was a monopolistic and later on oligopolistic market. If we or parliamentarians preceding us were doing such a loss, the likes of Equity, which have really helped the poor in this country, would have not come up. And therefore, Chair, I wish to oppose this amendment with the strongest terms.
Members, allow me now to give you the question. I propose the question that I now put the question that new clause 58C, as proposed by the Honorable Jude Jomo, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The noes have it.
New clause 67A.
I propose the question that new clause 67A be part of the bill. Leader of majority? Leader of majority.
Which page? Which will we look for it?
Just 1 minute, I'll give you the page.
It is on page 1097.
Page 1097.
It relates to housing.
Page 1097. Leader of majority? This is your... The leader of majority? The leader of majority, not desiring to be present to prosecute his proposed amendment, the proposed amendment stands dropped.
New clauses 69A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J.
Honorable members, I propose the question that new clauses 69A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J be part of the bill. Chairman Finance?
Mr. Chair, I stand to move that new clauses 69A, 69B, 69C, 69D, 69E.
It is on page 1094. Proceed.
69F, 69G, 69H, 69I, 69J be now read the second time. The import of this, Mr. Chair, is that the accountancy body, which is Institute of Certified by Public Accountants, have appeared during public participation. They actually came in with these particular proposals, and
94 members on your order paper. (1094).
All right. I hope the members are able to see on the order paper so that we move together. Yeah, that is 1094. 1094. 1094.
Millie, what is out of order?
Chair, given that the new clauses have many subsections, would it not be in order for the chair to move them bit by bit, Chair? Because there are too many and they have different implications. So if they move them bit by bit, it will be, we'd be better able to follow and contribute more effectively, Chair.
No, they are not.
The Honorable Millie, your observation is valid, but I've looked at them, and I think they are all interrelated, basically seeking to regulate the accounting profession. And I think it is possible to deal with them, all of them at once. Yeah, the Honorable the Chair, proceed.
All right, yeah, Honorable Chair, actually you have actually delivered the point very well, that all these clauses, members, they are not really separate. They are interrelated. The objective of this, one, is to make accountancy a better profession, because it will actually create accountancy remuneration order, just the same way the lawyers have. At the same time, you have realized that there have been a lot of problems in the financial sector, and in most cases, accountants are involved. And you'll find people calling themselves accountants, even if they are not qualified. So it is actually trying to bring into order that everybody, including students, who are aspiring to be accountants, will now be required to be members of the institute. And yes, they'll be members of the institute, but under students category. And to help them, they will not be required, under this law, they will not be required to pay subscription fee which in most cases will make the students face difficulties. So they will not be required to pay fees under this particular law, especially 69A. Mr. Chair, at the same time, when anybody who aspires to be an accountant and therefore registers to do examination, accountancy examination, will now be required to register first as a student, and not as a student, as a member of the institute. At the same time, it also, these particular proposals will bring all the accountants who are practicing in the country into regulation, so that when they make any mistake, the institute will be able to discipline. The institute will be able to levy, to take them to take action in terms of levying penalties. Mr. Chair, finally, this particular law also will require that anybody who is employing an accountant must employ an accountant who is a member of the institute. So these particular laws is going to bring an order and discipline into accountancy profession. And it is also going to bring accountancy to a real profession, which is respected, just like any other profession in the country. Mr. Chair, I urge this House to support it. As I end, Mr. Chair, there is also a proposal on increasing penalties, which are currently a penalty under 69D is at 100,000. The Institute was proposing to take it to 2 million, but we thought this 2 million is too high, and we are proposing to bring it down to 500,000. But at least it will be reasonable. Mr. Chair, I propose to move.
Very well. Members, let me give it to the House first. I now propose the question that new clause 69A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J be now read a second time. I will allow the leader of minority, then the Honorable Ishumo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, given that I also have direct interest in this amendment, being an accountant, registered accountant, whereas I want to agree that we have had a problem as accountants in terms of regulations, I want to say that a lot of times people are called accountants who are really not accountants. And Mr. Chairman, it is true that we need that regulation. But the problem I have with this amendment, Mr. Chairman, if we could ask, especially the chair of the committee, to listen to me. I have a problem with this amendment. I think we need substantive amendment to the Accountants Act. We have actually, this evening, we have a meeting with ISPAC, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants. We want to look at this act and review it. Because, Mr. Chairman, look at 69E, which says an entity in either the private or public sector shall not employ a person to practice accountancy unless the person is a member of the institute. Mr. Speaker, Chairman, you must define what is practicing accountancy. You cannot just say any entity, including Parliament. We have so many people working in finance as accountants who are not qualified accountants, who are not registered by the institute. But are you saying they are practicing accountancy or not? So if you leave it so vague, the reason why it is important to bring a standalone amendment is we will be able to define some of these words. We will define what is practicing accountancy. And even this amendment that talks about prescribe the remuneration order for the accountancy profession with the approval of the cabinet secretary responsible for finance. How do you bring cabinet secretary in regulating accountant matters? It doesn't happen with lawyers. So, Mr. Chairman, I think this amendment is not well thought out. Let us have it. As accountants, we want to agree that we need regulation, we need Accountants Act to be amended, but this is not the right way to go about it. I want to plead with the chair, kindly drop it so that we can engage. And we have members of the institute here, led by a former chairman, Honorable Kimunya. I'm a member of the Institute of Repute, and we have those who have not become members of the Institute, but they have qualified, like Kimani Shungwa here, are very knowledgeable.
From the chair or the speaker.
No, the
What
Honorable
we're asking
Kilonzo,
that this is a money bill. It should strictly deal with issues of taxes,
The
how
Honorable
government is
Kilonzo-
going to raise taxes,
The
but
Honorable-
not to deal with amendment of other acts, Mr. Speaker.
the Honorable Kilonzo allow us to make progress because the House has delivered its verdict on that one. So, yes. You know the avenues that are available to you. If you wish to deal with it and bring it up again, it is up to you. But I think we have just voted on it. Allow us to make progress. Chair, how do you propose to deal with the new clause 72, proposed new clause 72?
All right, Mr. Chair, I stand to move that new clause 72 is now read the second time. The reason for this, Mr. Chair, is that this deals with property. Actions on
Members,
property
it is on
currently.
page
if-
1096.
Yeah, 1096. Page
1096.
1096 on the order paper. Currently, Mr. Chair, is that if there are any actions to be made on property, and if unfortunately someone dies and you are 2 years old, if you must take some action on property bestowed to you, you will not be able, upon getting majority age, to take action, because currently it is limited to 6 years. So that at 8 years, it actually lapses. When you get ID at 18 years, and there is an issue which was actually, which was touching on property, which was touching on taxes on your property, you want to take some action, then you are told it lapses. Now, during public participation, this issue came up very strongly that we amended from 6 years to 20 years to allow minors to take action.
On-call limitation of actions has nothing to do with minors. It has everything to do with the duration of period that the action is alive. Minors have somebody called guardian ad litem. Minors have somebody called a ward. Now, this finance committee, I don't think they had legal advice. What they are trying to do here, what they are not telling you members, is that KRA will chase you, not only for the 6 years, but for 20 years. Right now, the limitation of actions is 6 years. What they are trying to do, which they are not telling you now, and they are going into things called minors, KRA will chase you for 20 years, and they have not collected money from you. Now, what happens is the highest limitation of actions that we have, even for cases where there is what is called, if you have not commenced an action, is 12 years. So when they are coming with the 20 years, you do not know which law, from which jurisdiction, either Commonwealth or American. It's ridiculous. But, Mr. Chairman, what I want to say is this. Finance Committee should know what is finance bill and what is legislation which should come on its own. Because everybody is complaining here. They come on limitation of actions and then they put in something like statute law miscellaneous amendment. In fact, if this thing was in statute law miscellaneous amendment, I would have let it pass. But what is it doing in a finance bill? If it is not for the fact that some people who are clever in treasury are trying to do things which are going to hurt Kenyans, Mr. Chairman. This case must be reined in.
Very well laid basis. Members, allow me to give just one chance to the Honorable Olago Oluoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the chairman of Finance Committee is either ignorant of the law or is concealing facts from the House. Mr. Speaker, the oldest piece of statute in Kenya is the Limitation of Actions Act, one of the oldest. And that is what you intend to amend under finance. That should come under miscellaneous or separately. Mr. Speaker, what this amendment truly means, and which the chairman has deliberately refused to disclose, is that the 6 years that the law limits any person to follow another by court proceedings or by any other legal proceedings should be extended to give KRA 20 years to chase anybody. 20 years, that's the whole of lifetime. Mr. Speaker, if this amendment goes, then what this will mean is that one cannot plan one's life. If for 20 years you are living in uncertainty of being chased by KRA, you cannot plan your life. Mr. Speaker, this amendment is one of the worst I've ever seen in this House.
Very well. The Honorable Nagol Watch. Members, in accord with the Standing Order number 133, members, order. In accordance with Standing Order 133, subclause 5, I direct that this particular proposed amendment will not even be put to question. That proposed amendment will not be permitted under that particular standing order. And that will be the end of it. Because it is not. Members, if you look at that particular standing order, you will find that no amendment shall be permitted to be moved if the amendment deals with a different subject or this particular provision of our standing orders. So that will be the end of it.
Recommitted clause 18, subclause C.
The Honorable, what is out of order, the Honorable Milemba?
Thank you, Chair. I think at this pace, a teacher is talking leader majority. At this pace, then the chair should also observe all other amendments which is plugging into this finance bill so that we don't waste the House time.
The Honorable Milemba, the House time can never be wasted. The House debates and delivers itself on many issues. So the House never wastes time. The House never acts in vain. Let us now proceed to the recommittal. The Honorable Junet.
Chair, thank you. Chair, I propose that clause 18 of the bill be amended by inserting the following new paragraph immediately after paragraph B. C in section B of part 1 by deleting the expression 1st September 2016 appearing in paragraph 2 and submitting therefore the expression 1st September 2018. Chair, this is a matter that we dealt with yesterday and it went through, except that there was a typo error where we quoted 2020 instead of 2018. So it was just a change of date. Members need to know that we are just changing the duration. That is all, Chair. From 2020 to 2018. Page, we are on page 1102. Yeah, 2016 to 2018.
Honorable members, yesterday you made your voices heard on this, but there was a mistake, and we are trying to correct that mistake. Yes, it is a recommittal. It has been recommitted. I will therefore then propose the question that clause 18 be further amended as proposed by the Honorable Junet in subclause C. I will therefore now put the question that clause 18 be further amended in subclause C as proposed by the Honorable Junet. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the final question, which is that clause 18 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Recommitted clause 31.
I propose the question that clause 31 be further amended, be part of the bill.
Then you can explain what happened.
Honorable members, you remember, yes. The Honorable TJ Kajwang, you're the one who's going to deal with this. Yes. there are two parts of these members. Just hold your horses, Chair. The Honorable TJ Kajwang, hold your horses. You remember yesterday we dealt with this particular clause, and there were two parts of it. The members approved of one, and the other one, they did not, there were issues with it, but they went ahead to deal with it in a manner that would have made their situation worse than what they intended to do. So I think the proper way to move with it would be to allow the chair first, to have the first go at it, Honorable Kajwang, with due respect. Then the Honorable TJ Kajwang will have the second bite at it. Chair, proceed.
Mr. Chair, in this particular clause, I just want to make a clarification that 31A was passed. Therefore, the one which we have an issue is 31C. So that's a clarification I wanted to make so that we do not mix any issue. All right, thank you.
If that is then the position that the chair has taken, that Part A, the House was comfortable with it, then I'll allow the chair to deal with Part B of it so that we can make progress. The Honorable TJ Kajwang, I think then you are comfortable.
I'm comfortable, but now I can contribute to...
Very well. On the other one. Then let the chair propose.
All right.
Let the chair move so that then you can deal with it. Chair, move.
All right. Mr. Chair, I think that the reason why we recommitted, I think there was a mix-up in terms of when the question was put. The 1C, I had proposed this way, that that clause 31 is amended by inserting the following new paragraph immediately after paragraph B. In part 3, by inserting the new definition in proper alphabetical sequence. And this one was defining issues of money transfer and providing as follows. Money transferred by banks means money transferred from one account to another, either within a bank or from one bank to another bank, or from a person to another person through a money transfer agency or other financial service providers, but does not include. That means providing exemptions, that this does not cover as the following. A, transfer of taxes to or tax refunds from Kenya Revenue Authority. B, transfers from the Kenya Revenue Authority's collection accounts to the Central Bank of Kenya. C, transfers by or to the national government, county governments, or Central Bank of Kenya. D, transfers relating to the purchase and sale of shares and securities on the Nairobi Stock Exchange by banks or financial service providers on behalf of customers. And E, transfers between accounts belonging to the same person, or any other category of money transfers that a cabinet secretary may specify through a gazette notice. So this particular proposal is actually providing exceptions, which were, Robin Hood was providing that any transfer of money above 500,000 will be charged 0.05%, which translates to 250 shillings for 500,000, and therefore for 1,500,000 shillings, for the purpose of funding universal health care. Because, because of volume involved, the government may be able to raise maybe around over 15 billion to finance medical health care for our people. But there are concerns that this may actually involve double taxation in one way or the other. And therefore, the proposal to provide exemptions will actually shield particularly your individuals, like if you are moving from your own account to your own account, then there is no transaction. Again, if you have money and you have given money to a stock exchange broker to buy for you shares, it's very likely that you will be charged when you are transferring to them, and then they will also be charged when they are transferring to the person selling shares, and therefore to exempt that, we provided an exemption that it will exclude any cash transfers by stockbrokers and any other service provider dealing with shares if they are transferring money to buy shares on behalf of customers. So that is, you are only, therefore, you are only charged once. You are not charged twice. So if you look at this, it also excludes government to government, because it's like if you allow that, then it's like taking from this pocket and to this pocket, because the government is a government. It's just like an individual who are being excluded, that if you are transferring your own money, therefore you will not be charged if it is your own account to your own account. It's the same thing for government to government. It's the same thing for central bank and KRA, because it's a collection of taxes transfer from KRA. So this particular one is actually making it better. And therefore, members, all of us are supposed to support the government in this agenda to provide health care for the people, but we must also protect the interest of Kenyans who came through public participation to give their views. And therefore, I propose that you support this amendment, which will make it better, at the same time delivering funding for the government to carry its own agenda in providing health care for the people of Kenya. Thank you.
Honorable members, I then propose that clause 31 be further amended as proposed by the chair. I will give the first go at it. The Honorable TJ, I had given you, but I think you are happy, so let other members who have. Yes. The Honorable Chris Wamalwa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I've listened carefully. And in many jurisdictions, of course, this issue of Robin Hood is being used. My only fear, we are opening a Pandora's box. There was no clarification whatsoever when it comes to transfer of salaries. We control CDF, Mr. Chairman, and at times you send bursaries to universities in the excess of 500,000 or whatever it is. Who is going to take care of this extra charge? I had really wished that in the same exemptions, maybe we'll have gone to an extent of including even CDF bursaries, because this money that we have, even the Weso Fund, when you are giving this money to these CBOs, Mr. Chairman, we're opening a Pandora's box. And when you talk of the principle of Robin Hood, these are the people who are endowed, and 500,000, for heaven's sake. We should have increased the threshold even to 1 million, but not 500,000. As small organizations, when you look at the salary for the employees, it is supposed to be sent to the bank for it to be dispersed to subsequent beneficiaries. We are opening a Pandora's box, Mr. Chair, and I'm humbly requesting we should reject this proposal. We should reject it in totality, unless we agree for a further amendment, because we're opening a Pandora's box on the Bangwenyi. Tomorrow, the salaries of your staff, even under CDF, as you send to the bank, have you taken care of that extra money because you have not put it in the exemption? This is the problem we are facing. So please, Honorable Limo, we should reject it in totality. I thank you.
Honorable Chris Wamalwa, you've made your point. Honorable members, you don't need to carry up your hands. I think we had deliberated on this yesterday, and we had recommitted for very good reasons. And I just want to restate them so that members can decide what they want to do with it. Honorable members, what the proposed amendment seeks to do is to qualify in some instances some of the transfers that will not be subject to the provisions of clause 31. But if you reject the proposed amendment, then you need to know that you will go back to the proposals as made by the minister, where all transactions will be available to this. So, Honorable Member,
proposing is a remedy that is adding a paragraph that comes to define money transfer. In this money transfer, we were expecting to see an exclusion of mobile money transfers, because these mobile money transfers are carried in paragraph 5, where excise duty is being imposed to a tune of 10% on mobile money transfers on any platform, including M-Pesa, Airtel Money, and so on. In essence, negating the whole concept of Robin Hood, because when you impose excise duty on mobile money transfer, you're actually loading the duty on the lowest, the people of the, who we call the bottom of the pyramid in Kenya. In essence, his remedy does not exclude mobile money transfer. It talks about paragraph 6, which is money transfer between banks. However, on mobile money transfer, by passing his amendment, we will still be imposing excise duty onto mobile money transfer that is used by the lowest people in this society, and as such negating that Robin Hood concept. So if his amendment falls down, it puts us in a predicament where if we revert to 31 as is proposed on the bill, we might have to, on that condition, also fail 31 itself. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, before I put the question, allow me to recognize in the chair, in the gallery, in the public gallery, members of South Imende during Cheke Council of Elders, who are 52, and whose patron, the elder Honorable Kathuri Murungi, is also, yes. They are welcome. They are welcome to this parliament, and we want them to know that we recognize that there were a form of parliament at a much earlier time than this parliament that we sit in today was formatted. So they are welcome. Honorable members, now allow me to make progress on this. I will put the question. Put the question that clause 31 be further amended as proposed by the Chair Finance Committee in respect of money transfer in regard to definitions for money transfer and the qualifications therein. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The nays have it. So now, honorable members, you need to be careful with this. You need to be careful with this. Now we go back to the bill. And I will now proceed to propose the question that clause 31 Yes. I propose the question that subclauses 5 and 6 of clause 31 be part of the bill. Honorable members, now this is the property of the House. It is up to you to decide one way or the other. The Honorable TJ, you are safe. You do not wish to debate on this? Honorable members, for me to make progress, the Honorable Millie, allow me to put the question then. Honorable members, then allow me to put the question. That I now put the question. Yes. Honorable members, this is the provision in regard to excise duty on fees charged for money transfer services. So it is now your business to decide where you want to place it. I will now put the question that subclause 5 and subclause 6 of clause 31 be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The nays have it. I now put the question. I now put the final question on this. That clause 31, as amended by the Honorable TJ Kajwang, be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. I now put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. We shall now move to the mover to report.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2018, and its approval thereof with amendments.
I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2018, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, there is on your order paper a further bill that we were to deal with this morning, the Division of Revenue Bill, Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2018, which we were to deal with this morning. I will direct that because of time, that this particular bill be listed down for consideration in the afternoon.
Order, members. Order. I now call upon the chairperson. Honorable Chair.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Finance Bill, National Bill number 20.
Order, members. Let's give the chair time to report back to the House.
Thank you very much for protecting me, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'll have a retake at it. I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2018, and approved the same with amendments.
The mover, you can now go ahead to move agreement with the report.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Haden Duale, who is the majority leader, to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I second, I want to thank members for making sure that at least before we go on recess, the finance bill has been concluded. Thank you. I second.
Order. Order, Honorable Shamala. Order. Order, members. I go on to propose a question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Should I go ahead to put the question? I go on to put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The mover, move the third reading.
All right. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2018, be now read a third time. And I also, before I ask Honorable Duale to second, I wish to thank the members for the great support which they have given in this particular bill.
Order members, please hold your horses, be patient. Let us have the chair complete the third reading of the bill.
I thank the members for the support they have given to this particular bill. I thank the committee, I thank the Speaker's office, and also thank the Clerk's office for the support. And I ask the Honorable Duale, Majority Leader, to second.
I only bow when I'm praying. I have never bowed, and of course when I'm doing some other things. Yeah. You bow, I only bow twice, when I'm praying and when it is very dark. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Order, members. Order. Yes, I think the Honorable Leader of Majority has done the seconding. Honorable Jen, you don't have to sit on the floor. You can just freeze where you are. Honorable members, I go on to propose a question, which is that the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2018, be now read a third time. Is that the mood of the House? Okay, I'll go on to put the question, which is that, and obviously we have the requisite numbers, which is that the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2018, be now read a third time. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the law relating to various taxes and duties and for matters incidental thereto. Order number 11, Health Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2018, second reading.
Honorable Leader.
Chair, because the Chair of Health is not around to second me, can I step it down so that we do it in the afternoon?
Very well. I think we shall go by that.
Order number 12, the Urban Areas and Cities Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 4 of 2017, second reading.
Leader.
Same, I can't see the Chair of Transport, Honorable Proceedings. Then we can shelve it for this afternoon.
Sure, it is so ordered.
Order number 13, the Warehouse Receipt System Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017, second reading.
Same story, the Chair of Agriculture is away. Mr. Speaker is still yet recovered from the sugar mercury. But I'm sure in the afternoon he will be back.
Is it the recess blues, Honorable Leader of Majority? Is it the recess blues?
No, Madam Speaker. It's because of, you know, we thought after the finance bill, the Division of Revenue Bill Committee of the whole House will continue.
Sure.
So most chairs felt that they will not be around, and the time remaining is too little for me to move.
Very well. We shall therefore then also defer order number 12. What is out of order, Honorable Kathure?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you see, if you look at
under number 10, 11, and 12, they are marked under the leader of the majority party. You know, he is a very able majority leader. With or without the chairs, he can move these bills. But for the sake of my constituents who are here, I really want to thank the Njurincheke Council of Elders for finding their time to come to the National Assembly. And I also want Honorable Nduale also to recognize the elders who are here. Honorable Nduale, I wish you can recognize the Njurincheke elders.
Honorable Leader, I think you understand where Honorable Kadure is coming from. Sure, Honorable Leader.
Now that the chair of Njurincheke is not recognized in the standing orders, the chair of special funds and his very important delegation, we want to welcome them to the House, and we want to assure them that their leader, not purported, their elected leader as a leader of the Njurincheke of that constituency, he's a very able member, he's a very able chair of the funds committee, and they have elected him as an independent. That tells you that despite our party strength in that region, they felt that they should not let down their leader. And Honorable Kathuri, we congratulate you for your new position. And please make sure that there are no quacks as leaders of Njurincheke. These days, quacks are masquerading as leaders. So we must insulate Njurinchekes from bogus and quacks to be their leaders in the near future.
Very well. I think, Honorable Kadure, you've had your day and your moment with your constituents. Order. Order. Honorable members, we have no further business. And the time being 12:59, this House stands adjourned until today, Thursday, 30th of August at 2:30 p.m.